Picture this. Christmas Eve. Outside, the world is supposed to smell of cinnamon, mulled wine, roasted chestnuts, and fake pine trees from the dollar store. That's what you expect. But here, the air tastes chalky, like powdered dust scraped from the bottom of an abandoned drawer. It clings to the back of your throat, scratchy, unshakable. You can almost convince yourself it's cinnamon, almost. But then the smell of marrow slides in underneath. Yep, that's the scent of your childhood Christmas. Everyone else gets stockings filled with candy canes and chocolate coins. You're sitting cross-legged on a splintering wooden floor, staring at a package wrapped in thin, greasy paper. The paper is so see-through, you can already make out the outline. And spoiler alert, it's not a teddy bear, not a toy train, not even one of those sad, wind-up tin clowns that make kids cry. You tear it open anyway, because you're still a kid, and hope is stubborn. Inside, a bone, long, pale, smooth, cold in your hands like it's been sleeping in the snow. You turn it over, looking for some hint of playfulness, maybe a ribbon tied around it, a smile painted on with soot. Nothing, just a bone. The adults are watching you, smiling with that tense, awkward grin adults use when they're desperate for you not to cry. Go on, one of them mutters. Play with it. Because what else are they supposed to say? Sorry, the war ate Santa. So you grip your brand new, definitely not traumatizing gift and do what kids do best. You imagine a sword, a horse, a doll, anything except what it really is, a piece of something that used to walk, used to live, used to breathe. The grown-ups exchange glances, their faces sagging in the dim candlelight. They don't need to say it. You already know toys don't exist anymore. Factories don't make dolls, trucks, or soldiers. Factories make bullets, bombs, coffins. And so Christmas gets reinvented. Bone toys. Memories you can play with, if you want to slap a tagline on it. Meanwhile, the silence in the room presses against your chest. You tap the bone against the floor, hoping it will make some cheerful clink like a xylophone. Instead, it makes a dull, hollow knock that echoes too long, almost like the walls are repeating it back. You giggle nervously, because that's the only option you have. Crying isn't allowed. Not on Christmas. Quick reality check before we sink deeper into this mess. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, you're basically volunteering to spend Christmas alone in a house full of whispering bones. Subscribing is like hanging garlic in a vampire movie. It won't save you, but it buys you time. Oh, and the pinned comment. Go there if you want the only Christmas calendar guaranteed not to rattle in the night. Probably. Back to your toy. You hold it close to your ear, pretending it might hum like a seashell. Maybe it'll carry the sound of an ocean you've never seen. Instead, you hear something faint. Not waves, not wind. A whisper. Too soft to make out, too sharp to ignore. Your skin crawls. You yank the bone away from your ear, shove it into your lap. Your heart insists you imagined it. Your stomach knows better. Across the room, neighbor kids are showing off their own gifts. One blows into a whistle carved from a shin bone. The noise it makes isn't playful. It's shrill, slicing, the kind of sound that doesn't belong in a child's mouth. The adults wince, not because it's loud, but because it's familiar. It's the kind of sound soldiers remember in their sleep. Another child shakes a string of vertebrae like beads. They clatter together, knocking against each other with a rhythm that sounds almost like teeth chattering. You stare too long, swear you see them moving on their own. The kid laughs. You don't. And here's the worst part. No one thinks it's strange. No one stands up and says, "This isn't Christmas." Parents smile, brittle but proud. Children pretend harder. And you learn quickly that survival is imagination stretched until it snaps. When the candles burn lower, shadows climb the walls. You try to sleep clutching your bone gift to your chest. It feels heavier now, like it's sinking into your ribs. The air is cold enough to bite, but your hand is sweating against it. You close your eyes, whispering a wish to yourself, that by morning it'll look different, that it'll be a toy, that it'll be anything else. Then, a creak from the corner, the kind of sound that isn't random, isn't accidental, slow, heavy, measured. You freeze. The bone in your hand seems to shift, just slightly, just enough that you're not sure if it's you or it. You squeeze tighter. The wood of the floor moans again. Your breath fogs in the air. You count to 3. Open your eyes. The shadows on the wall are still. The toys are still. The bone is still. And yet, You can't shake the feeling that something else is in the room, something waiting, something that knows you're awake. Merry Christmas. Morning arrives like a rumor nobody wants to repeat. The window is a square of pewter light, the kind that makes color feel like a luxury. Your breath ghosts the air as you sit up, bone clutched to your chest like a talisman you don't trust. In polite daylight, the room looks almost normal. Dust floating like lazy snow, a fire sulking in the grate, the tree pretending it doesn't shed needles every time anyone exhales too hard. You study the bone for proof of last night's nonsense, for a dent or a smear or a secret message etched by candle ghosts. Nothing. Smooth, pale, harmless, like a knife laying there saying, "I'm just decor, promise." You're not convinced. You never are the morning after. Someone has left breakfast. Stale bread, thin jam that tastes like red memory, and tea that thinks it's hot water with aspirations. The adults murmur in the next room, voices soft and even, the sound of people holding heavy things together with threadbare calm. You catch a word here, another there. Ration, quiet, patrol, the kind of words that turn holidays into inventory. You pretend not to hear. You pretend the bone in your lap isn't heavier in daylight, like it soaked up something from the night and kept it. You try play. That's what this object demands, right? Play. You set it on the floor, roll it like a baton, imagine a parade that doesn't exist. It clacks against a knot in the plank, and the sound makes you wince. Too hollow, too familiar. You draw a face on it with charcoal, 2 dots and a crooked smile. Then wipe it off quickly, suddenly embarrassed, as if you've insulted someone. The charcoal smear lingers, a shadow you can't fully remove. You hide it with your palm and tell yourself it's fine. It's fine. Everything is fine, a Christmas lullaby for liars. The neighbor kids burst in with the weather, cheeks raw, eyes bright, because children will be bright until the world finally convinces them not to be. They want to trade games. The vertebrae chain is now a jump rope, the shinbone whistle is a referee. You join because joining is easier than explaining why your gift feels like a closed eye. Outside, the snow complains under boots. White drifts lean against fences like tired men. Somebody has carved little hoof prints near the woodpile, delicate as embroidery, and there's a brief debate about whether they're from a real deer or a good liar. You glance at the prints. Something about the spacing feels wrong. Too measured, too careful, like footsteps that learn disguise. You race, you fall, you laugh. It's what the world expects of you. The vertebrae rope snaps against your calves, and the bones click together like a language you almost understand. The whistle blows and your skull aches, a memory you don't own trying to come home. Again, someone shouts, because repetition is the only magic left. You do it again, and again, and again until the daylight shortens its breath and the sky turns the color of a bruise. Afternoon is for stories, someone decides, and you're shepherded inside to the hearth's weak embrace. An old woman with hair like frost and a spine that remembers thunder sits you all down. Her hands are maps. Her eyes are places you shouldn't go without a compass. She doesn't speak at first. She listens. The fire pops. The room leans in. When she finally begins, her voice is a saw through soft wood, steady, patient, unwilling to stop just because the material protests. In the winter of the year nobody counts, she says. Everything was taken. Men, metal, sugar, songs. What stayed behind learned to work double. We carved toys from what we had. She doesn't say bones, she doesn't have to. Every child in the room holds their breath at the same time, and the air drops an inch. She talks about clever hands, careful knives, and the way marrow dries to chalk if you leave it under the eaves. She talks about polishing until the shine scolded the dim. She doesn't talk about where exactly everything came from. She doesn't talk about the rumor that still moves under the floorboards like water. Sometimes the animals walked on 2 legs before they trod on 4. You make a toy, she says, to hold something still, a fear, a face, a wish. You put it in smaller shape so it can't run around the house breaking plates. The room laughs because she gives them permission, but nobody laughs all the way. She tells you bones remember heat, that in your sleep they'll warm to the temperature of the last hand that held them in anger or love. She tells you they make honest instruments, that a drum carved from alders will sound like a drum, but a skull sings. She says it like weather, unarguable, impolite to dispute. Someone asks if the toys ever move. The word hangs there, barefoot. The old woman's mouth twitches, almost a smile. almost a warning. Everything moves, she says, if you watch long enough. Another question slips out. What about names carved in? Do the names keep? She nods. Names keep. Names call. Names are doors. The adults shift, as if benches suddenly grew thorns. The old woman sees and changes the subject with the grace of someone who's buried more than time. You feel the bone at your side like a pocket full of lightning. You're sure there's a faint warmth now, heat that shouldn't be there. You hide your hand, afraid someone will see the truth glowing through your skin. When the gathering ends, the adults herd everyone to tasks. Firewood, water, quiet. You escape to the doorway where the hoof prints were. Snow has softened them, blurring edges into suggestions. You crouch, bone tucked under your arm like contraband, and press your fingers into one track. Cold snaps your prints away. Underneath the snow's crust, the ground is oddly packed, as though something heavy stood too still for too long. Night is impatient. Air tumbles down the hill early, dragging a starless shawl. The lanterns are lit. The windows turn into faces. You help hang garland stripped thin as a promise. Someone knocks a silver bell, and the sound hits the room like bright water. For a moment, you believe in safe. The old woman hums a hymn no one else knows. The fire remembers how to be generous. People smile and almost mean it. Then the first knock comes. Soft. Exact. A knuckle counting, not asking. The room stiffens. Someone laughs the wrong way. Another knock, same rhythm, same patience. We both know I can wait. An adult moves to the door, and another adult's hand lands on their sleeve like an anchor. Who calls? The anchor asks. No answer. The third knock is quieter, which is somehow worse, like a mouth leaning too close to your ear to say nothing at all. You can feel the bone heating against your ribs now, as if it recognizes a pattern your skin can't. The old woman is watching you, not the door, not the adults, you. Her gaze pins you to your boots. Names, she says, very softly, to nobody and to you. Doors. You don't know which is which anymore. The latch lifts. The wind grins its cold grin and sweeps in, carrying a smell that isn't snow. The door opens wider. Every candle tilts. Your bone toy pulses once in your hands, warm as breath. Something is on the threshold. The doorway yawns like a throat, black and swallowing. For a second, you're convinced the night itself has decided to step inside and join the party. The adults lean forward as if pulled by string, waiting for a shape to form. And then it does. Not a man, not an animal. Something in between, draped in snow that refuses to melt, as though the cold likes it too much to let go. Its eyes are small lanterns of frost, and its hands are empty. Too empty. Nobody speaks. Nobody breathes. The bone in your arms is blazing hot now, like a coal you can't drop. The thing takes one step in, the floorboards moaning under its weight. Another step, and the candles bow like they're being scolded. Then silence. You realize the thing is waiting for you. The old woman stands. Her bones crack like wood splitting, but she doesn't flinch. She points a crooked finger at your chest, at the gift clutched there. Show, she says, voice rough as gravel. The adults start murmuring protests, but they fade quick because they all know what she means. The whispers from last night weren't rumors, they were warnings. You lift the bone, trembling, half expecting it to scream in your hand. The shadow thing tilts its head. Recognition flashes in its frost glass eyes, and then it laughs. Not a jolly, belly-deep Santa laugh. This laugh is hollow, as if someone dragged a chair across an empty church. The sound vibrates in your jaw. You taste iron. Names, it rasps, and its voice sounds like snow snapping branches. Doors. The old woman nods once. Give it. You shake your head, clutching the bone tighter. It feels alive now, veins of heat running through it, like it has its own pulse, separate from yours. You don't want to know what happens if you hand it over. The shadow takes another step. Its presence fills the room, smothering every scrap of cheer the adults tried to stitch together. The garland droops. The fire dies back to embers. Your throat tightens. You think of the whisper you heard when you pressed the bone to your ear. What if it wasn't just in your head? What if it was a name and you didn't catch it? The shadow holds out its empty hand, palm upward, waiting, demanding. The old woman leans closer. If you don't give, it will take, and it doesn't choose kindly. You look around. Every pair of eyes is on you, pleading without words. You're 5, maybe 6, and yet somehow the fate of this cracked, frost-bitten Christmas has landed in your lap. You open your mouth and your voice comes out smaller than you want. What? What if it's mine now? The shadow laughs again, louder, colder. The walls tremble, dust raining from beams. Nothing is yours, it whispers. Not even you. Your hands are shaking so bad the bone almost slips. Almost. But you catch it. And when you do, something strange happens. The heat vanishes. The bone goes cold, heavier, dead again. You look down, and etched into the surface is a word you don't recognize. Letters carved so deep they look older than the gift itself. The shadow tilts its head farther, like it's studying a puzzle piece finally turned the right way. That one, it breathes. That door. The old woman hisses between her teeth. Not here, but it's too late. The letters flare, faint light crawling up your arms. You drop the bone out of panic, but it doesn't hit the ground. It hangs there in mid-air, spinning slowly, like a compass that's found north. The room gasps. The adults back away. The shadow leans closer, stretching, its frost eyes hungry. The letters on the bone burn brighter, then break apart, floating into the air like sparks. They twist and tangle, arranging themselves into a doorway, a shape that wasn't there a second ago, drawn in light and smoke. Beyond it you see snow, endless snow, figures moving in the white, not children, not adults, something else. The old woman grabs your shoulder, nails digging in. Don't go, she snarls in your ear. Whatever you see, don't go. But the shadow is smiling now, if you can call it that. Its teeth are icicles, long and wet. It stretches a hand toward the glowing door, inviting, promising, and then you hear it again. That whisper from last night, clearer now, carried by the sparks. A name. Your name. You don't remember telling anyone to carve it. You don't remember asking. And yet there it is, glowing brighter than the rest, pulling you toward the threshold. Your knees shake. The old woman's grip tightens. The adults are frozen, not daring to breathe. The bone hovers closer to you, nudging like a pet, begging for attention. And you know that if you take it, if you step through that door, you won't come back. At least, not as you. The shadow gestures again, impatient now, the cold around it spiking sharp enough to sting your skin. Choose, it whispers. You look at the door, at the bone, at the old woman's hand clawed into your shoulder, at the adults holding their silence like shields. And for one long, unbearable moment you think, maybe it would be easier. Maybe stepping through would feel like relief. Then the bone drops, straight down, hits the floor with a crack that echoes louder than it should, louder than any toy ought to sound. The letters vanish. The door snaps shut. The sparks fizzle into nothing. The room exhales all at once, shoulders sagging, air warming by a fraction. The shadow doesn't scream. It doesn't rage. It just leans back, disappointed, frost eyes dimming. Another year, it says, voice fading like wind down a chimney. And then it's gone. The door slams itself shut with a gust of cold that kills the last candle. You're left standing in the dark, bone at your feet, silent, harmless again. The old woman finally lets go of your shoulder. She crouches, picks up the bone, and presses it back into your hands. Her eyes are colder than the shadows ever were. Now you keep it, she says, and pray you never read another name. Merry Christmas. Morning returns with a limp, as if the night bruised it on the way out. Frost veins the window, thin as spider silk and twice as busy. You wake with the bone pressed to your chest and the old woman's words stitched into your ribs. Keep it and pray. You try both. Neither feels like enough. The house is quieter than it should be after a miracle or a disaster, whichever that was. People move as if the floor might report them. A kettle hisses. Someone hums 3 notes and abandons the 4th. You wait for the shadow to be mentioned in plain language, for the world to agree that the world happened. Nobody does, which is another way of saying, yes, it happened. You sit at the table, bone on your lap beneath the blanket like contraband. Your fingers learn its weight by habit. The surface is cool now, inert as a closed eye. Every so often, your thumb finds the place where the letters appeared. Nothing there. No groove, no scorch, just the superstition of skin. The adults pass bread and apples, counting without counting, their mouths practicing ordinary shapes. The old woman watches steam rise from her cup, as if it's a map. When she finally speaks, she doesn't look up. "You held," she says. "That matters." Held what? The door, your breath, yourself. You decide not to ask because questions are how adults smudge answers. Instead, you chew the apple and pretend the tartness is a cure for memory. It isn't. Between bites you hear last night's laugh, chair dragged across a church, skate along the edge of your ear. You turn too fast, almost spill your cup, and the old woman gives you a look like a bandage. "Eat," she says. "Weather's coming." "More snow?" an uncle asks. "Other weather," she replies. Outside, the yard looks rearranged by a careful thief. Hoofprints, that careful, measured pattern, thread toward the woods and vanish like a lesson learned too well. You step out with the bone tucked under your coat. Snow greets your boots with the soft complaint of old furniture. The cold takes your breath and hides it. You walk to the fence, touch the top rail, feel the frost whisper its warning into your palm. Behind the trees, something shifts the light. You tell yourself it's nothing the way a child learns to tell themselves, fire is a picture until it leaps. You test the bone the way you test a secret, gently first, then harder. Tap the post. Knock your knee. Hold it to your ear. Silence mostly. Beneath that, a thread of sound you can't quite catch, as if the world left the radio on in another room. "What do you want?" you whisper, and the question fogs the air like a ghost practicing. The first answer isn't words, it's movement. Not from the bone, from the trees. A figure detaches from the shade, child small and wrong tall, wrapped in a coat too big and boots too thin. You brace for frost eyes and icicle teeth, but this shape's face is human. A boy, maybe your age, maybe a winter older. His skin has the waxy look of somebody who's been cold for a season. He raises a hand not to wave, but to show it's empty. His other hand, though, holds a toy. Your throat forgets how to swallow. It's a horse. Not the pretend kind you imagined from your bone, but an actual carving, delicate as knuckles, ribs, spine, a tail made of tiny, hinged vertebrae that flex when he moves. The legs are femurs scaled down with cruel care. Where the eyes should be, shallow bowls catch light. The thing is beautiful in the way lightning is beautiful, precision applied to the wrong problem. He stops at the fence and studies you like he's trying to decide if you are a door or a name. "Trade?" he asks, voice wrapped in fog. You grip your bone tighter. "For what?" He lifts the horse a fraction. Its tail segments click, soft as a wink. "Yours for mine." "Why?" He shrugs with only one shoulder as if the other remembers a weight. "Mine runs," he says. "Yours opens." He shouldn't know that. Not unless everything in the woods knows everything in the house. You glance back toward the door. The old woman stands there, framed in the dark like a photograph somebody hid in a drawer. She doesn't shake her head. She doesn't nod. She lets the moment sit the way you let a fever burn until it decides if it's leaving. "What's its name?" you ask, stalling. The boy tilts the horse, and the light catches an etching along its neck. The letters are pale and deep like healed scars. "Air," the boy says, as if that explains anything. Maybe it does. Maybe every toy built from a ledger keeps accounting. "What's yours called?" he asks. "It doesn't say," you answer, then feel the lie itch. It did. Last night. It used your mouth to call you. "Names keep," he says, and the way he says it makes him older. You carve them, or they carve themselves. He offers the horse across the fence. You could take it. You could pretend all the rules are different in daylight. Your fingers ache to touch the hinge tail, to test the balance. You think of last night's door humming into the air, and the shadow's patient certainty. You think of the old woman's bandage look. The boy's eyes are not frost lanterns. They are tired. Tired people learn tricks the way thirsty people learn routes to water. "What happens if I trade?" you ask. "You learn what runs," he says. "I learn what opens." That should sound like danger. It just sounds like division of labor. You look down at your bone. It is innocent as a knife on a table. "Where did you get yours?" You try. "Same place everyone gets everything," he says, from someone who was done needing it. You almost laugh because that's the truest and ugliest sentence of the season. The wind combs the trees and miscounts. The old woman hasn't moved. Your hand extends before you tell it to. The horse is lighter than you expect, warm like a pocketed stone. The hinge tail flexes, and you feel the small mechanical mercy of making. The boy takes your bone with gentleness you weren't offered last night. His face loosens in relief, as if a lock finally found its key. He tucks the bone into his coat, nods once, and starts toward the trees. Wait, you say, because the important thing always arrives late in the mouth. Will it? Open? He finishes for you without turning. Yes. For what? He pauses, half turned, profile as thin as a new moon. For who? He corrects. And then he's gone into the trees, his footprints reorganizing snow into a sentence you can't read in time. You stand with the horse and the fence, and the knowledge that you just changed the angle of the world. The old woman finally leaves the doorway and comes to you through the cold. She does not take the toy. She studies it with the frankness people reserve for injuries. He didn't steal, she says. He asked. That's worse. Why worse? Because it means he knows the price. You look at the horse's neck. The carved word heir is neat, severe. You imagine the hand that cut it, steady, practiced, unwilling to lift until the truth was all the way inside the grain. What's the price? You ask. Her mouth thins. Running things have riders. You wait for the laugh that means she's teasing. It doesn't arrive. She touches the hinged tail with one finger and flinches like it bit. Bring it in, she says. Lock the door twice. You follow, and for a heartbeat you swear the horse's head turns to watch the woods, listening like you do when you think someone said your name from the next room. Inside, the house warms by 1 degree of courage. You place the horse on the table. Its shadow is longer than it should be, stretching toward the window as if it volunteered to keep watch. From the woods, distant and clear, a whistle blows, shrill, familiar, exactly wrong. The old woman closes her eyes. Here's something you can't yet. When she opens them, they're winter. Tonight, she says, you learn how to ride. The house breathes around you, slow and nervous, as if even the walls know what the old woman meant. Ride. You stare at the horse on the table, its hinged tail twitching ever so slightly, as if the word itself was enough to wake it. The carved letters on its neck, heir, gleam with a sheen that isn't candlelight. You swear the shadows on its ribs are moving, flexing like lungs trying to remember the rhythm of life. The adults try to pretend it's just another object, just a toy, just wood and bone and necessity. They set bowls, pour tea, talk in soft bursts about things that don't matter, because mattering would be too dangerous. But no one sits too close to the horse. No one touches it. Not even the old woman who has touched everything, from wounds to coffins to curses. You're the only one who has no choice. When you reach out, the room stops. Even the fire hesitates, flames bending lower as if to watch. Your fingers brush the horse's back, and warmth thrums through you like striking a string. Not painful, but intimate, like something is scanning you, deciding if you're worth the wait. The horse shudders. The hinge tail rattles. Then it stills, waiting. Outside, the old woman says. Her voice is too even, the kind of calm that has teeth behind it. You obey. The night air slams your face with frost, sharp as needles. The snow groans underfoot, and the sky hangs heavy with more of it. The yard feels both endless and claustrophobic. The fence a line between safety and story. The adults gather in the doorway but do not follow. They won't. You're the chosen experiment. The horse sits in your arms like it belongs there. Its weight shifts, adjusting itself, like it knows you better than you know yourself. The old woman steps out last, wraps a scarf tighter around her neck, and plants her cane in the snow. Place it down, she says. You kneel and set the horse on the white crust. Its legs bend, joints clicking as if they'd always been meant to move. It takes one step, then another, leaving clean, neat prints in the snow. It stops, turns its head toward you, and waits. You ride it, the old woman says. You laugh because it's ridiculous. The horse barely reaches your knees. Its frame is all edges and hollows, you'd crush it. But when you lower a hand to its back, it bends, reshaping, bones rearranging like furniture in a restless house. The thing grows beneath your palm, vertebrae clicking into longer chains, ribs stretching outward. By the time it stills, it's tall enough to carry you. Its sockets glow faintly, twin lanterns waiting for a rider. You back away, but the old woman's cane blocks your retreat. Ride, she insists, her eyes reflecting something colder than the snow. If you don't, it will choose. The horse exhales. That's the only word for it. A puff of mist spills from its empty mouth, warm and damp. The sight of it terrifies you more than silence ever could. Against every nerve in your body, you swing a leg over its back. The bone shifts to hold you, reshaping again, ribs tightening into a saddle, spine curving to support your weight. It feels alive. It feels wrong. The old woman leans on her cane, watching. The adults murmur behind her, voices carrying fear like smoke. You grip the horse's ridge with trembling hands. "Now what?" you whisper. The horse answers, not in words, never in words, but in movement. It bolts. The snow slashes your face, tears your breath away. The world becomes a blur of white and shadow as the horse gallops across the yard, through the fence as if the wood remembered how to split. You clutch its back, ribs digging into your thighs as the night opens its mouth and swallows you whole. The forest, black trees, silver frost, silence that sounds like held breath. The horse doesn't slow. It knows the path, though there isn't one. Branches reach, clawing at your coat, but none touch you. The air is thicker here, crowded with something watching. Many somethings. You shout for the horse to stop. It doesn't. Instead, it tilts its head as though listening to a voice you can't hear. Its sockets flare brighter. And then ahead you see it. A clearing. In the middle stands the boy, the one you traded with. He doesn't look surprised to see you. His coat hangs off him like a shadow too loose, his boots sinking into the snow. In his hands your old bone gleams, alive in a way it never was with you. Heat smolders in its center, pulsing. "You came," he says. Not happy, not angry, just certain. The horse slows to a halt, chest heaving like lungs that don't exist. You slide off, landing shaky in the snow. "Why bring me here?" "Not me," the boy says, lifting the bone. "Him." The horse lowers its head, not to him, to the bone. Recognition passes between them, silent and binding. You feel it ripple in your gut like a secret you weren't meant to know. "What is it?" you demand. The boy strokes the bone like a pet. "A key," he says. "You didn't open it right, but you will." "No," you snap. "I'm not opening anything." He smiles faintly, pitying, like he's already seen the page you haven't reached yet. You don't choose, it does. He gestures to the horse. They always do. The horse snorts, mist curling from its mouth like smoke signals. The sockets in its skull burn brighter, casting long, jagged shadows across the snow. The boy takes a step closer, bone in hand. Its surface glows with faint letters, too blurred to read. They pulse with your heartbeat, though the bone isn't in your grip anymore. "Tonight," the boy says, voice low, "we ride farther than you think." The forest shifts. The trees lean closer. Something in the darkness sighs, long and heavy, like a giant turning in its sleep. You clutch the horse's side, your breath fogging in the cold, and realize the truth. This isn't a toy. This isn't a game. This is a vehicle, a ritual, a promise. And now that you've mounted it, you're part of whatever destination it chooses. The horse stamps the ground. Snow explodes upward. The boy raises the bone high. The letters flare, carving themselves brighter. And somewhere, unseen, a door begins to open. The door announces itself without a handle or a frame. Just a pressure change, a hush that folds the forest inward until the night becomes a hallway. The boy lowers the bone, and the air hardens into edges. Frost beads along an invisible seam in front of you, sketching a rectangle no one asked to see. The horse sidesteps once, as if counting the distance between what is and what's about to be. You reach for the boy, but he's already not where your hand wants him. He's a step deeper into the hush, his outline thin as breath. "Don't," you say, not sure which of you you're addressing. He looks back with eyes that don't belong to a child anymore. "Names," he says softly, "are maps." The bone warms in his fist like a sun that chose the wrong world. Letters rise from it in pale embers, not the sharp, neat carving from last night, but frantic handwriting, urgent, slanted, alive. You catch fragments. Winters, keep, return. They swirl upward and press against the seam until the frost splits with a sound like ice biting its own tongue. The door opens, not outward, not inward, more like down, as if the night were a trapdoor and gravity remembered another direction. The smell that spills out isn't rot or smoke. It's older. Hospital soap that never learned comfort, tin soup, cold bed sheets pressed flat by absence. The horse tosses its head and steps forward. You grab its spine saddle and let yourself be pulled, because the alternative is standing still until you become part of the snow. Inside is snow too, but wrong snow. Powder that muffles even thoughts. Blue-white light without a source. A horizon that keeps politely refusing to attend. Shadows move with a discipline that makes your shoulders itch. Columns, file, turn. The boy's boots don't sink. They sign the ground like a witness. You follow, the horse's hooves ticking a metronome that doesn't match your pulse. Figures appear. First you think them soldiers, then mannequins, then something more accurate and less kind. People snowed in by time. Coats buttoned to sternums, caps pulled to eyebrows, cheeks chapped into permanence. Their eyes notice you in the way weather notices roofs, appraising, impersonal. Each carries a toy. You've seen versions of these in warm rooms. A vertebrae doll with spool-joint shoulders, a jawbone boat rigged with thread sails, a stackable set of ribs that makes a tower if you never breathe near it. Here, they are exact, perfect, dangerous. Each toy holds a name. Some are carved, some are burned, some shimmer on the surface like breath on glass. The boy slows. A woman steps from the formation, coat too fine to have been practical anywhere that mattered. Her face is winter that educated itself. She looks at the bone in the boy's hand, then at you astride the horse. Air, she says, nodding once to the carved word on its neck, as if greeting rank. The old woman's voice arrives in your head without bothering your ears. Running things have riders. You straighten, which is ridiculous because who are you to straighten for a word? The horse feels your spine lengthen and approves. Its ribs cinch, familiar as an embrace and twice as binding. What is this? You ask. The dumbest, bravest question. A return, the woman says. Everything built from debt finds its debtor. We didn't ask, you say, which is the second dumbest, bravest thing. She gestures across the snow. A row of children stands beside a low wall, each holding a whistle. They blow one after another, a cascade of that shrill, exact note that turned the adults' faces last night. With each blast, a toy's name flares brighter. With each flare, a door flickers in the air above it, small, precise, like a keyhole learning pride. We asked, she says. You were not born yet to hear. The boy shifts the bone, and the letters reassemble, calmer now, legible. He nods toward your horse. Air, he repeats, but he's not speaking to you. He's speaking to it. Carry. The horse moves. Not forward, down again. The trapdoor gravity taste. The snow becomes a staircase that is also a ramp, that is also a memory of a road. You grip until your fingers ache, eyes skimming the horizon for an exit sign. There aren't exits here, only errands. At the bottom, if bottom is the right word, which it isn't, stands a tree. It's leafless, bark the color of medical instruments, branches arranged with the kind of logic that makes surgeons arrogant. Hanging from it, toys, hundreds, thousands, each attached by a ribbon of something that refuses to name itself. Bone gleams in soft, earnest light. Names glow. Some you can read. Some are too bright to look at. Some are your own in languages that make your mouth feel hypocritical. You don't realize you've dismounted until your boots crunch a noise that should be impossible in this snow. The boy is beside you, holding out your old bone like a communion you want to spit out but won't. Hang it, he says. If you do, the ribbon will claim it. If you don't, the door won't close. You know this with the certainty of winter. Practical, tired, right. Your hand moves. The bone is neither cold nor hot. It is exactly your temperature, which means it's too intimate to be held and too loyal to be dropped. You reach up. The nearest branch bows. The ribbon lifts itself, courteous as a butler who learned its manners from grief, and wraps the bone's middle. The knot ties as if fingers were involved. Your name flashes once. Your right one this time, the one you were born from, not into, and then dims to a steady heartbeat. The woman exhales like arithmetic concluded. Around the tree, other figures step forward to hang their debts. A vertebrae doll is lifted by a pair of hands that have never been allowed to tremble. A jawbone boat finds its string and settles, hull humming a note that is not sadness, but could be hired to impersonate it. The whistles above blow another round. Some doors close, some stay ajar, stubborn as habits. Now what, you ask, voice thinned by altitude you can't see. Inventory, the woman says, and the cruelty of the word makes you dizzy. Balance. We are bookkeepers. She looks at the horse. Air carries, air returns, air remembers. And me, you say, what do I do? She considers you the way a ledger considers a number that doesn't behave. You ride, she says simply, and you stop opening the wrong doors. The boy tilts his head, listening to something you didn't catch. It's time, he says, and the bone tree answers. A soft full-body clatter like rain rehearsing on porcelain. The door behind you quivers, ready to unexist if you don't take your cue. The horse steps close, nudges your thigh with a muzzle that isn't a muzzle. You mount, and the world rushes upward, snow becoming forest, becoming fence, becoming house. The yard accepts you with a groan. The lantern in the window coughs flame. The old woman stands in the doorway, cane planted like a boundary stone. You slide off air and try not to fall. Your legs remember stairs that never were. The old woman studies your face, then the empty place in your hands. Well, she says, as if you returned from a bakery without the wrong bread. You paid one thing. Is it enough? You ask. Her mouth does something that almost hopes. For tonight. Inside, warmth is a rumor again. The adults are quieter than last quiet. You look at the table where the horse's shadow stretched earlier. Now it's shorter, as if it learned modesty. The old woman pours you tea that tastes like relief, practicing for the real thing. From the woods, a whistle rises, one note, not shrill this time, but low, a summons spent. The boy's silhouette appears at the fence, then fades, then doesn't, like a thought deciding whether to persist. You raise a hand without meaning to. The night does not wave back. You sleep. You do. Somehow. In your dreams, doors open the correct way and close without argument. In your dreams, names are only introductions. When you wake, air stands by the bed, eyes dim to embers. The old woman sits in the chair, not pretending she wasn't guarding you. Lesson 2 starts at dusk, she says, as if there were ever a choice. Tonight we talk about what rides you back, because of course there's a price for carrying the air, for hanging your debt on a surgeon's tree, for learning which weather the old woman meant. You feel it already, the weight inside your ribs, the ribbon tied where no one can see. You stroke the horse's bone neck, and somewhere far away a whistle answers, one you haven't learned yet, calling a name you'll have to decide is yours. The day drags itself forward like a wounded animal. You sit by the window, staring at the yard where the snow pretends to be innocent, though you know it remembers last night. Air stands in the corner, motionless, but not dead. Never dead. The glow in its sockets pulses just enough to remind you it's waiting. The old woman has vanished into some hidden part of the house, leaving you with adults who cook and clean and murmur like the walls are listening. Maybe they are. Every creak of timber sounds like eavesdropping. You try to play the part of a normal child. You pull out a scrap of paper, a nub of charcoal, and sketch the horse. But the drawing refuses to stay loyal. Lines curl into shapes you didn't intend. The hinge tail becomes a whip. The sockets grow wider. The ribs morph into ladders. You turn the page over, but the marks bleed faintly through, a ghost of intention you can't erase. You crumple the page, but when you toss it into the fire, the paper resists, floating up instead of down like it doesn't want to burn. The adults don't notice. Maybe they've trained themselves not to. By afternoon, the old woman returns. She smells of ash and pine resin, her cane tapping rhythm into the floor. Lesson 2, she says, as though you'd been enrolled without permission. What rides you back? The phrase tastes wrong in your mouth. Back from where? Her smile is thin, not unkind, but sharpened. Wherever you went. You want to argue. You want to insist you only rode a toy horse into a forest and down a staircase that wasn't there. But the words feel flimsy even inside your head. She sees the doubt written on your face and nods. Good. You understand. The horse clatters its hooves softly on the floor, as if applauding the admission. The old woman draws a circle on the ground with her cane. Not chalk, not ash. Just pressure, but the groove stays. Every rider is a door, she says. Every mount is a key. You went out, yes, but something always comes back in with you. That's the rule. Like what? You ask. She shrugs, her shawl slipping like snow off a branch. Depends. Sometimes it's hunger, sometimes it's memory. Sometimes it's a name that isn't yours but wants to be. The air in the circle stirs, faint and restless. You swear you hear whispers, but they're too soft, too quick. The old woman taps her cane once and the whispers stop. Today you'll listen. Tonight you'll learn. The adults shift uncomfortably. One clears his throat. Is this necessary? Yes, she replies without turning. Better the child know how to ride than stumble blind. You're not sure if you feel grateful or cursed, probably both. The rest of the day is a blur of tasks, fetching wood, washing bowls, pretending to nap while your ears strain for whistles from the woods. At one point, you see the boy again, or maybe just his outline between the trees. He doesn't wave, he doesn't move, but you feel him staring, and Air's sockets flare brighter in response. Dusk arrives earlier than it should, dragging its grey belly across the yard. The old woman calls you outside. The adults don't follow this time. Maybe they've accepted you're no longer theirs to protect, or maybe they're relieved it isn't them. The snow crunches beneath your boots, loud enough to sound like a countdown. Air follows without being led, its hooves leaving no prints. The old woman stands near the fence, the same fence where the boy first appeared, her cane buried in the drift. She gestures to the ground where another circle waits, etched deeper this time, almost carved. "Mount," she says. Your stomach tightens. "Now?" She doesn't answer. She doesn't need to. You swing onto Air's back, ribs reshaping beneath you, saddle forming from absence. The sockets flare. The air inside the circle thickens, heavy with something unsaid. The old woman lifts her hand. When you rode out, the mount carried you. Tonight, you will carry it. The words don't make sense until they do. A weight drops into your chest, not physical but certain, like grief. Your heart skips once, twice, then beats harder, forced into a rhythm that isn't yours. You grip Air's neck, gasping, as shadows slip under your skin. They feel like memories that don't belong to you. Mud, smoke, marching feet, a lullaby cut short by sirens. Your eyes water, not from wind, but from overflow. The old woman watches without blinking. That is what rides you back. It will test your ribs. If they break, you fail. The horse moves, though not forward. It rocks gently like a cradle as the weight inside you presses deeper. You hear voices, some familiar, some strangers. They whisper through your veins, promises, bargains, regrets. One voice is louder than the rest, a man's, low and steady. I carved the first. I named the first. And still it wasn't enough. You jerk, nearly falling. Who is that? The old woman's eyes narrow. Not yours. The voice laughs, bitter as burnt sugar. All names are mine if I carve them. You want to cover your ears, but the sound isn't external. It's inside, woven into your marrow. Hair tosses its head, sockets flaring, as though arguing with the voice. The weight shifts heavier, dragging you sideways. "Balance!" the old woman barks. "Rider or ridden? Choose!" You squeeze Air's ribs with your knees, fighting for control. The horse steadies, bones locking into place like gears. The voice snarls, fading though not gone. The weight lifts a fraction, leaving your chest sore, hollowed. You gasp, sweat freezing on your forehead. The old woman nods once. You held. You want to shout that you didn't, that you barely clung to the edges of yourself, but your throat won't obey. Air lowers itself, letting you slide to the snow. The ground tilts beneath your feet. The old woman taps her cane against the circle. The whispers return, louder this time, but she silences them with a glare. "Tomorrow," she says, "we go further. But tonight, you guard your name. If it rides you back, you'll never get it off." You stagger toward the house, the adults parting like smoke as you enter. They look at you differently now, not with pity, but with a kind of awe, or maybe fear. You can't tell the difference anymore. When you crawl into bed, Air stands beside it, silent sentinel. You close your eyes, but the man's voice lingers, whispering from behind your ribs. You curl tighter, praying he doesn't speak your name. Outside, a whistle sounds, not shrill this time, gentle, coaxing, like someone calling a dog home. Sleep arrives like a cheap imitation, looks right from across the room, falls apart when you touch it. That gentle whistle keeps folding itself through the cracks, an invitation, a dare, a lullaby carved from glass. You bury your head under the blanket and discover it smells faintly of smoke and pine tar, and the kind of fear adults steep in when they think you're not watching. Air stands motionless by the bed, which is both comforting and not, like a guard dog that was assembled in a monastery. Eventually you sleep sideways, halfway on a dream and halfway on the floorboards. Dawn drags you upright by the collar. The old woman is already awake, which feels unfair. Elders should be obligated to sleep more so the rest of you can perform basic denial. She sets a cup of something brown and honest in your hands and nods at Air. "Lesson 3 is listening without believing," she says. "Most doors talk, They lie because that's what doors do until you choose them. You sip the drink and pretend it isn't the flavor of burned stories. Outside, the yard is a calendar. Hoofprints like dates, fences like margins, trees like notes in the corner. Do not forget. The boy is a smudge at the tree line. He doesn't wave. He doesn't need to. By noon, the house fills with small preparations that pretend to be chores. Someone oils the hinges. Someone checks the bells, the bolts, the way the light sits on the table. The old woman draws another circle, this one beneath the window. She tells you, names echo. Make yours weird so it takes longer to fetch you. You try it in your head. You stretch syllables, pinch vowels, let consonants get lost like teeth under pillows. It feels ridiculous. It also feels like armor. Twilight slides in early, carrying that same polite menace. The old woman taps the circle by the window. Air steps into it and goes still, a lamp turned low. Tonight, she says, you learn how to hear your name and not answer. You'd laugh if your mouth wasn't busy being a locked drawer. Wind needles the panes. A single whistle floats from the woods, gentle as a hand smoothing a feverish forehead. Your ribs try to unlatch. Your name, your regular, everyday government-issued name, slips into the room like a draft. It doesn't sound spoken, it sounds remembered. The boy speaks from the dark. Don't chase it, let it run out of breath first. You don't turn to the window. You watch the old woman's cane instead, the way the wood darkens with the weight of her hand. Your name passes by you, a polite guest looking for snacks. Air's sockets glow, then dim, then glow again in a rhythm that slowly disagrees with your heartbeat. You say, if I ignore it, will it stop? Eventually, the old woman replies. Names are stubborn, but they starve. Hours kneel. The whistle changes, soft to sharp to soft again, the way hunger argues with itself. The house clicks, settles, remembers other winters. You think about the tree below the snow, the surgeon's branches strung with exact debts. You wonder which ribbon is tied under your ribs and whether it's capable of tightening. The boy hums a tune too old for his body. It takes you a full minute to realize it's the rhythm of boots on a road. You hate how right it feels. The first trick arrives with comedy because of course it does. Your name tries on a new outfit and says itself in your mother's voice, impatient, affectionate, distracted. You almost answer. The old woman clears her throat quietly, and the sound pins your tongue to the floor. You breathe through your nose and count splinters in the window frame. Fine. 2 can play denial. You call your name something longer and stupider inside your head, a parade of syllables with trapdoors. It stops knocking for a minute, offended. Then the second trick arrives without jokes. Your name peels itself into a child you've never met, standing outside in the snow, shivering in a coat that learned thinness too well. It looks like you, but wrong at the edges. It taps the window with polite knuckles. Air lifts its skull and makes a sound like a bow drawn across a string. The old woman doesn't move. She says, if you open the window, it learns your handle. You keep your hands tucked under your legs until your fingers ache. The boy finally speaks again, voice flat, like the forest instructed him to be careful. Ask it a question it can't answer, he says. Your throat is paper, but you try. What did I name the horse the first time I saw it? The child outside blinks and says your real short name, as if hoping you'll correct it. You don't. It frowns, confused, and fades at the edges like a painting surrendering to damp. Good. Let it think you're bad at doors. The whistle outside drops to a note that feels like the ground remembering a burial. Air shudders. The old woman whispers something in a language that wears boots. You catch one word that might be mercy, and another that might be accounting. The window fogs. In the blur, you see the tree again, the careful surgeon, the ribbons, the way names were taught to hold still. You remember the boy saying, they always do. You hate him for being right. Midnight tips over. The whistle stops. Silence lands like a verdict. Your name curls up in the corner and pretends to sleep. Nobody is fooled, not even the darkness. The old woman lowers her hand. Air, she says evenly. Carry. The horse steps out of the circle, bones ticking. You swing onto its back before the command has time to become a regret. Wind muscles through the seams of the house. The window unlatches itself with a sound like a coin standing on edge. Outside, waiting. The window doesn't shatter. It sighs, opening wide enough for the night to slip in like a burglar who knows the house too well. Air steps forward without hesitation, ribs flexing beneath you until you fit. The old woman doesn't stop you. She doesn't even look afraid. She just grips her cane, and in her silence, you hear something worse than fear. Expectation. The air outside is sharp enough to cut. Snow hisses as the horse's hooves strike, though they leave no prints. You clutch its spine, heart rattling. The whistle returns, softer now, coaxing instead of commanding. Air follows without resistance, skull glowing like a lantern guiding itself. The woods accept you as if they've been waiting. Trees bend just enough to clear a path, their branches trembling with a sound that could be wind or applause. The boy is there, of course. He leans against a trunk, your old bone tucked under his arm. He doesn't wave, he doesn't smile. He just watches, face pale as the snow he blends into. You ignored it, he says when you draw near. Good. Most don't. You want to ask him who most are, but your throat is a locked drawer. He taps the bone and faint letters shimmer along its surface. Not your name this time, not yet. Someone else's, someone older. It's almost ready, he adds. What is? You manage to croak. The ride back. Before you can demand an explanation, air jerks beneath you. Its sockets flare brighter and the ground folds into that same impossible slope, the snow rearranging itself into a staircase you never wanted. You're dragged downward, pulled into a place that doesn't care about your refusal. At the bottom waits the tree. You know it before you see it. The branches stretch wide, hung heavy with toys that whisper through their teeth. Each toy glows faintly, a name engraved, a debt recorded. The boy steps ahead, cradling the bone as reverently as a priest with an offering. He points at a low branch where ribbons hang loose. Yours belongs here. You shake your head violently. I already hung it. He shrugs. That was the first. They always come in threes. The words sting, familiar in a way you wish they weren't. 3 lessons, 3 rides, 3 debts. Your stomach knots. The old woman's warning hums in your skull. If it rides you back, you'll never get it off. The boy ties the bone to the ribbon. It resists, twisting like it knows betrayal, but the knot seals itself anyway. The letters flare once, then steady. Your chest tightens. You feel a tug deep under your ribs, as if a string is being pulled from the inside out. The tree groans. Ribbons tremble. Toys clatter. One by one, doors bloom in the air, flickering shapes of frost and light. Behind each is something waiting. Faces blur in the glow. Men in uniforms, women with hollow eyes, children clutching whistles. Their mouths move, but no sound reaches you. The boy turns. His face is older again, too old. This is the archive, he says. Everything carried, everything owed. And me? Your voice is thin. What am I here for? His eyes soften. Not kind, not cruel, just resigned. To keep it moving. To ride what nobody else will. Air stamps its hooves, eager, ready. The sockets blaze, casting shadows across the snow. The tree shudders, branches swaying though no wind blows. You feel your body lean forward against your will, pulled by rhythm, by duty, by something carved into you before you were born. The boy lifts the bone high and your name glows across it again, clear, sharp, undeniable. You scream, but the sound collapses into the snow. The ribbons tighten, the tree groans, the doors flicker wider. Tonight, the boy says, voice echoing too far. You learn who rides you back, and then from the nearest door, something steps through. It isn't the shadow from the first night. It's smaller, slighter, familiar in a way that makes your stomach drop. The figure walks toward you with halting steps, face hidden in the dark. But the shape is one you know, too well. It's you, or at least it looks like you. The double stops a few feet away. Its head tilts, its lips move. And when it speaks, the voice is your own, but deeper, slower, as if dragged through mud. You gave it away, it says. Now I ride. Air rears, sockets blazing. The ribbons tighten, pulling, pulling. You're not sure if you're still on the horse or already being dragged off by your reflection. The old woman's voice whispers from nowhere, everywhere, inside your skull. Guard your name. The boy lowers the bone. The double steps closer. Air screams without lungs, and the doors blaze wide. The ride back has begun. The ride back is not a gallop, it's an occupation. The double, your wrong you, climbs into your lungs like it owns the lease, tries the light switches, tests the windows, knocks on the pipes. Air lowers its skull and blasts a soundless scream that makes the branches of the debt tree shiver. Ribbons quiver like nerves under a needle. The boy boy lifts your old bone, and the letters flare in a language that is just your name, rearranged to be crueler. The doors around the clearing throb open and shut, as if the night forgot how to blink. Off, you bark at the double, which is hilarious because you've never successfully given a command to yourself. It smiles the way mirrors do. Indulgent, predatory, patient. Up close you see all the petty betrayals. Your ears a fraction lower, your left eyebrow never learning symmetry, the scar on your chin from the time you tripped over a prayer. Even your breath is copied, except colder. The old woman's voice isn't here, but you remember her rules, which is worse, because now it's your job to enforce them. Guard your name. Names are doors. Doors lie. You grip hare's ribs with your knees until the bones hold you like parentheses, and you let your mouth go slack because predators love a fixed target, and you plan to be grammar instead. What do you want? You ask the double, which is like asking fire its favorite color. To carry, it says. Your voice, after a winter. You're slow. I'm exact. The boy shifts, uncomfortable in a way that feels like agreement. It's how they balance it, he says, not looking at you. The ledgers don't like blanks. I'm not a blank, you say, which is exactly what a blank would shout. Your double extends its hand. It has your fingernails, your winter cracks. You stare at it like a map with a river you don't trust. Hare steps sideways, deliberate, and the ground answers with that trapdoor tilt. The snow remembering gravity's other hobby. The tree's lowest branch lowers, and a ribbon unwinds and trails toward you like a helpful snake. The double's smile widens. See? It recognizes me. That ribbon recognizes the invoice, you mutter, because sarcasm is the only blade you smuggled in. The horse nudges you forward. The boy lifts the bone higher. Your name brightens until it hurts. The doors around the clearing sharpen, focus, become more door-like, which is not comforting. Through one you glimpse a kitchen in spring, blue bowl, yellow soap, a hand that could be your mother's, or the idea of her. Through another, corrugated metal, rain hammering like small fists, a cot that remembers the shape of someone gone. Through a third, nothing but fog, and in the fog, whistles, dozens, tuning to that narrow shriek. The double leans close enough that you smell your own night breath echoed back. Climb down, it says. Let me take the weight you can't name. You should refuse in a sermon. You should spit in your own eye. Instead, you stall, which is your actual superpower. If you carry, you say, what rides you back? Homesickness, it says without flinching. Hungry and polite. Truth is always worse than a promise. Your ribs creak. Air shifts, patient as a gallows. The boy lowers the bone an inch, as if mercy has a hinge. Tell me something only I know, you say, gambling on the rule the old woman taught you. False doors can't improvise. The double's face softens into your thinking face. You didn't cry when the shadow knocked, it says. You wanted to. You practiced the sound in your throat and chose the smaller shape instead. Air flinches under you, because even bone recognizes humiliation drafted into honesty. The boy's expression doesn't change, which is worse. Something else, you demand, greedy for a failure that doesn't arrive. You swallowed your wish when the ribbons lifted, it says. It tasted like metal. You were ashamed it tasted like anything. Fine, it's you, or good enough to counterfeit the parts the world invoices. The ribbon brushes your wrist, soft, dry, a vein with ideas. You jerk back. The ribbon follows. The double sighs, fond. You make everything hard. A wind moves through the doors, a bookkeeping breeze. Toys tinkle, whistle mouths glint. The tree smells like a hospital pretending to be a church. Air tenses, gathering itself. The carved word air on its neck, catching the light like a bad omen with good posture. The boy lifts the bone again, and this time the letters don't just glow, they hum. Your chest answers, low and reluctant, a tuning fork that didn't consent to be tuned. Stop, you tell him. He shakes his head. It's already happening. We just pick which scar. That's when the old woman arrives, not in body, but in the pragmatic way the world bends when someone with a spine like arithmetic thinks your name. Her voice threads through the tree. Ask the invoice its cost, child. Costs are boring right up until they save you. You look at the double. What do you want in return? It hesitates, the smallest glitch. To carry, it repeats. That's not a price. That's a job description. The pause lengthens. The ribbon stills, listening. Air's sockets dim, as if granting you a breath. The boy's mouth tightens because he heard it too, the ledger looking up from the page. Finally, the double says, a bed that remembers me. A bowl that calls my hands, a door that opens toward. Homesickness, yes, and a house trained to love the wrong you. You could weep if weeping didn't feel like signing. You straighten, ridiculous as a banner in a blizzard. No, you say. The clearing leans in. The doors flicker. The ribbon twitches, startled. The boy's eyes go wide, either impressed or furious, hard to tell in this light. No? Your double echoes, as if the word were a moth it intends to pin. I won't hire you, you say. You can ride me back if you tell me your own name. It smiles, bright and dead. I am your name. That's rented speech. You reach down and tap Hare's neck. And this is my mount. We ride on my terms. Hare answers like weather agreeing. It explodes forward. Not away, not toward, around. The horse wheels in a bone arc, scattering frost and your double lunges, but misses. And what a lovely verb. The ribbon whips past your wrist and snags the air, looping empty. The doors wobble. The boy stumbles, bone clutched high, letters skidding across its surface like panicked fish. You don't flee. You orbit, forcing the double to turn, forcing the tree to track you, forcing the bookkeeping to do cardio. Hare's hooves hammer a circle into the packed snow. A track, a groove, a sentence. I decline. With each pass you feel the weight inside your ribs shift, slough, argue. Less a possession than a negotiation conducted by stern aunts. Stop, the boy shouts. And for once he sounds exactly his age. You'll tear it. Good, you say, breath turning to knives. Let it tear. The double is panting now. Of course you would be a dramatic breather. It lunges again, and this time its hand grazes your sleeve. Heat floods your arm, not warmth but fever. You smell tin soup, hospital soap that never earned forgiveness, wool blankets dried too near smoke. You jolt, almost topple. Air rears and slams down, a punctuation mark with hooves. The tree clatters like dishes in an earthquake. Price, the old woman's voice snaps. Make it say the whole bill. You haul the horse up short, swing it to face the double and shout into your own mouth, what do I lose if you win? No answer. The double's face flickers, stutters, smooths. The teeny glitch returns. The ribbon hangs uncertain. The boy lowers the bone an inch, then another, as if wary of witnessing. What do I lose? You insist. Finally it says, without voice, without mouth, just the truth landing heavy. Your bed, your bowl, your door, your winter, your jokes, your aches, your almosts. Everything that teaches a name its weather. Your chest hollows. Air steadies. The boy's eyes shine like Thor that doesn't trust itself. Then no, you say again, gentler, and this time the word isn't a moth. It's a lock. You lean forward and lay your hand on Hare's jaw. Carry. The horse bolts, straight at the nearest door, the one with the blue bowl and the yellow soap, and at the last instant, you yank left. The door misses you by an inch and slams on nothing. The double throws an arm through the fog of the second door and catches only rain. On the third, whistles scream and shatter into quiet as Hare's hooves cut through their tune. The doors sputter, offended. The tree's lowest branch lifts, ribbon recoiling as if burned. You keep riding. Circles sharpen into a spiral, tight as handwriting when the ink runs out. The clearing blurs. The boy stumbles after you, shouting words you don't take. The double sprints, breath frosting, shoes slipping, face furious at the invention of friction. Your lungs fail upward, but your legs remember lesson 2, balance or be. You choose balance until it almost likes you. And then something breaks, not you, the night. A seam splits overhead, a fourth door you didn't consent to, and cold moonlight pours in like inventory. All at once, every ribbon on the tree tugs, every toy chatters, every whistle sings one note. Come. Hare skids. The spiral ends at the trunk. Your knee slams bone, sparks pinwheel your sight. The double lunges a final time, hand flaming with the need to be you, and catches your sleeve again. Not skin, not name. Cloth. The thread pops. A whisper. You grin. Ugly, triumphant, afraid, and say the only spell you've earned. Not enough. The door overhead yawns wider. The clearing tilts. You're falling. Falling doesn't feel like falling. It feels like being unstitched. Threads of you yank loose, unravel into the air, while the rest of you tumbles in a body-shaped suggestion. Air plunges with you, ribs creaking, sockets blazing against the widening dark. The double claws at your sleeve, still holding that useless scrap of fabric, still insisting it's enough. It isn't. You scream, but the sound comes out folded, like paper tearing the wrong way. The fourth door swallows everything. Light blinds, but it isn't sunlight. It's the cruel shine of polished instruments, walls bleached too clean, windows nailed shut with their own brightness. You land on tile that echoes like a drum. Air lands beside you, hooves sparking, skull lowered. The double smashes down a breath later, twisting into a crouch, face pale and furious. The boy doesn't fall. He steps through, calm as if he'd bought a ticket. The bone glows in his hand, letters racing across its surface, trying on names like coats. None stick. The place is a hospital that isn't, a ward without nurses, corridors that stretch too far and bend where geometry refuses. Beds line the walls, each with a lump beneath a sheet. You know they're not sleeping. You know they're not waking either. From every bed, a toy dangles. Jawbone rattles, ribcage drums, whistles, dolls. Each is tied to a wrist with ribbons that cut deeper than rope. The toys twitch. The beds don't. The double straightens, smug now, because this is its world. Home, it says, your voice in quotation marks. You shake your head, clutch Air's spine like a cross. No, a warehouse. The boy snorts, almost amused. Same thing. He kneels by one of the beds, places the bone gently on the chest of the sheeted figure. The ribbons tighten, glow, then slacken. The toy hanging from the wrist jerks, rattles once, then goes still. A name hisses through the air, gone before you can catch it. Ledger work, inventory. That's all this place is. Hair stamps, sockets glaring at the double. It smirks and steps closer to the nearest bed. These are mine, it says. They wait for me. You're not me, you spit. The double tilts its head, exact as you do when correcting. I am the part that remembers what you refuse. It touches a ribbon and you feel the tug in your ribs, faint but real, like fishing line tied under your skin. You stagger back. Air braces against you. The boy rises, dusts his hands, and looks at you with something almost kind. You can't erase it. You only get to choose how much rides. I don't want any of it, you snap, childish even in your own ears. Then you shouldn't have climbed on, he says simply. The corridor stretches, beds multiplying, toys twitching harder, whistles keen faintly, vertebrae rattle. The air smells like boiled linen and forgotten soup. Your double walks between the beds, dragging its fingers along the ribbons, humming. With each touch, your stomach knots tighter. You realize with horror it isn't random. It's looking for yours. No, you whisper. No, no, no. The old woman's voice threads faintly into your skull, barely louder than your heartbeat. Guard your name. But your name is already out there, glowing somewhere in this corridor, tied to a wrist you haven't seen yet. You grab Air's neck. Find it, you beg. The horse lowers its head, sockets blazing like searchlights. It snorts, exhales steam that curls toward the beds. The steam drifts left, then right, then stops at a door half open at the end of the hall. You run. The boy doesn't stop you. The double does. It lunges faster than you, claws closing around your shoulder. Air barrels into it, bones crashing like iron, knocking it aside. You stumble through the door and freeze. Inside, one bed. Smaller. A child-sized frame beneath the sheet. You already know. The ribbon tied to the wrist glows faintly, your name etched across it in cruel, neat letters. From the ribbon hangs a toy. Your bone, the one you thought you hung on the tree. It sways gently, mocking you. The double appears in the doorway, grinning with your teeth. Told you home. The boy lingers behind it, watching, unreadable. You step forward, trembling. If I cut it, it rides you back anyway. The double interrupts. You can't erase a ledger. You can only sign it differently. Air enters, sockets glaring at the bed. It paws the tile, impatient, like it wants to smash everything. You grip its neck, heart hammering. Then show me how to sign, you demand. The boy raises the bone. Letters crawl, shifting. Every name has 3 faces, he says. One they give you, one you answer to, one you hide. He points at the ribbon. That's the second. If you can speak the third, it unbinds. You stare at the glowing letters. Your name, sharp and simple, carved into the ribbon. But what's the third? The one you've hidden even from yourself. The double steps closer, smug. You don't know it. You never will. That's why I exist. I'm the hidden one. The boy shakes his head. No, you're the echo. The hidden one is still yours. The air thickens. The whistle returns, long and low, threading through the beds like smoke. Toys rattle in chorus. The ribbon around the child's wrist tightens. The bone sways harder. Air stamps, sockets blazing so bright the tiles reflect white fire. You close your eyes, think. Names, echoes, hidden selves. What did you swallow at the tree? What did you never dare to say out loud? The double whispers in your ear, too close. Say nothing. Let me speak. Let me sign. The boy's voice cuts through, sharp. If you let it, you'll never come back. Your lips part. A word climbs your throat. Not your name, not the one on the ribbon, not even the one the old woman muttered in her lessons. Something smaller, something you only thought once. Alone, the night you first wished the war would forget you. You speak it. The ribbon screams. The ribbon's scream isn't sound. It's pressure, a shriek that uses the room as a throat. Tiles bow. Windows contract. Bed frames complain like old men standing up too fast. Your secret word, small as a splinter, stubborn as one too, hangs in the air and the ward hates it. Names want to be public. Secrets want to be paid in full. You feel it tear a path down your tongue and into the world, and for a second, you regret everything. Then the ribbon loosens. Just a breath. Just enough to gasp hope before it tightens again, twice as vicious, like a snake choosing a lesson plan. The glow around the child wrist brightens, carving your everyday name deeper, as if to punish the nerve of your smaller one. Air slams a hoof, sparks skid across tile and die screaming like insects. The boy flinches, then points the bone at the knot and barks a syllable that isn't a word so much as a wedge. The knot trembles. Your double laughs. Almost, it says. Almost is the God you pray to when you've run out of better ones. You face it, chest burning. Tell me my hidden name, you say, daring. If it's truly you, it should know. If it's only your echo, it will guess wrong. The double sways closer, a cruel mirror hungry for fingerprints. Why would I give away the knife I'm holding? Its breath smells like tin and boiled blankets. Because you get to carry if I say it, you counter. A lie, maybe. Or a truth in costume. The boy's eyes flick, quick calculation. Air's sockets tilt toward you, waiting for the bluff to earn or burn you. The double considers, chin cocked like yours when you plan to cheat fairly. Fine, it murmurs. It leans in, mouth at your ear, and exhales the word. Wrong. Close. So close it makes your bones itch, but skewed at the center. A vowel bent, a consonant stolen and replaced with its polite cousin. The room doesn't move. The ribbon doesn't tremble. Your heart laughs. Your face doesn't. Echo, you say softly. Not origin. The double recoils, wounded pride wearing your cheekbones. The ward answers your clarity with a long mechanical sigh, like radiators deciding whether to be generous. The boy presses the bone harder to the knot. Letters flare and rearrange around your secret, smaller name, trying to learn its angles. Again, he orders. Say it again. You do. It fits less like a crown and more like a bandage, which feels right. The ribbon loosens a second time, a child's breath's worth, then cinches back. The knot is learning you. You are learning it. The bed trembles under the sheet. The lumped body beneath shifts, and every hair on your arms rises like a choir. Air lowers its skull to the child, and light pours from its sockets. The mercy kind, not the ledger kind. Third time makes a door, the boy warns. Third time also locks it. His voice doesn't shake, but the bone in his hands does, vibrating like a tuning fork in a quarrel. He looks at your double. Say it, and be finished. The double bares your teeth. Not my job to make you brave. It puts a hand on the ribbon, not grabbing, just laying there, possessive, a winter of touch. Your ribs tighten in sympathy. Behind you, beds along the corridor begin to rattle, toys twitching on their strings. Somewhere, a skull drum beats a soldier's march, steady as arithmetic. All right, you whisper to no one, to everyone. You lean close to the knot, so close its cold stings your lips, and you say the secret word a third time. The knot explodes into light. Not white. This is a bruised color, purple around the edges, old blood trying to be sunrise. The ribbon lets go, flinging itself backward. The toy, the bone, falls, clattering across tile to Air's feet. The child on the bed sits up with a gasp that sounds like a birth done rudely. You see your own hairline under the sheet, your own nose, your own chapped mouth. and then not. The eyes are older, not years older, storms older. They look at you and register recognition, relief, and immediate practical hunger. Your double hisses, a radiator gone mean. Thief, it spits. Accountant, the boy corrects, eyes on you. Take the bone. You stoop and lift it. It's warm now, sweat warm, breath warm, life warm, and heavier than it was by a heartbreak. Letters race across it, curving into your everyday name, then your secret one beneath, smaller, stitched like a hem. Air presses its skull against your wrist, steadying the shake you only feel when someone you love stops being a hypothetical. The child peels the sheet away. It is you, and it isn't. A version written by weather you avoided. A twin printed on thinner paper and then laminated by will. They swing their legs off the bed and stand swaying. The ribbon trails from their wrist like a vein that forgot it was private. You reach for it and they slap your hand. Not mean. Instructional. Tie it to the horse, they rasp. Not to me. You sure? The boy asks, surprise slicing through calm. That's not the usual binding. The child nods. Air carries. That's the rule. Rules are only useful when they arrive disguised as mercy. You loop the ribbon around Air's neck, under the carved word ear, and knot it with the knot you use for hidden things. 2 wraps, a tuck, a pull that looks like you're not pulling. The ribbon tightens, then settles, adjusting its lie to your hands. Air shudders once, as if accepting an oath. Its sockets dim to a simmer. Your double backs toward the door, newly uncertain. It glances down the corridor as if it expects reinforcements. More of you, more echoes, a committee of nearlies. The beds answer with little convulsions, heartbeats that don't know which hearts to consult. The boy plants his feet and raises the bone like a bell about to decide whether to ring. Choose, he tells you. Ride or be ridden. We don't have the luxury of both. You look at the child, you, not you, and they nod once, solemn as a verdict. Ride, they say. If I try the saddle, I'll never get off. The old woman's voice threads through the fluorescence. Quiet, proud, unamused. Balance or be. You swing onto Air. The ribbon between your hands and the horse's neck pulls taut, then slackens like a leash that trusts the walker. The child climbs behind you, arms around your waist, light as a promise. The double lunges furious, and Air snaps its skull sideways, catching the echo's shoulder with a crack that is both bone and metaphor. Door, the boy commands. Every fluorescent light blinks at once. Tiles ripple. The corridor becomes river. The ward becomes boat, and you surge forward, Air's hooves beating a path through clean and cruel brightness. Beds slide past in a blur of sheets, and the kind of sleep nobody volunteered for. Toys clatter and then quiet as you pass, as if your speed shames them into manners. The double runs alongside, hand skimming the air, forever a fraction short of sleeve. Ahead, the 4th door yawns open, moonlight on tile, inventory disguised as salvation. The boy sprints, keeps pace, bone in one hand, your life in the other. When you cross, he shouts, don't look back. That's how doors get ideas. Air leaps. The world buckles. The hospital smell tears like paper. You land in snow, in night, in breath that hurts because it's honest. The child slides down behind you, knees buckling, laughter breaking out of them like glass turned generous. In the doorway of the house, the old woman stands, one palm up, receiving proof. The boy stumbles through last, dragging the door behind him with the grim of a janitor closing a century. It slams. Frost seals the seam. The double hits the other side with a thud you feel in your molars. Silence stops to listen, then remembers it was busy elsewhere. For a minute, nobody speaks. The sky exhales stars. Air shivers and shakes off a handful of glittering frost like it just rolled in someone else's moment. The child looks up at you, your face, your weather, and grins crooked. Now what? You should say bed, soup, safety. You should say sleep until spring. Instead, you say the truth that showed up without washing its hands. Now we pay. The old woman nods as if you finally read the assignment. She steps aside from the door. The house glows low and kind, a lantern that learned discretion. You lead Air in by the ribbon. The child follows, footprints tidy as arithmetic. The boy lingers at the fence, watching the woods recruit shadows. Tomorrow, he calls. The ledger sends a messenger. What kind? You ask, already dreading the category. The polite kind, he says. The worst. He vanishes into pine. You shut the door. The latch drops with a sound that promises nothing and means it. Air settles by the hearth, ribbon humming against carved letters. The child curls on the rug and sleeps like someone who negotiated a temporary truce with gravity. You sit in the chair the old woman borrowed from time and stare at the window until your reflection admits it's tired. From the forest, faint through the sealed seam of the fourth door, comes the softest whistle, a courtesy you wish was a warning. And then, against the glass, a single, careful knock. The knock is polite, too polite, like a neighbor returning sugar. Except it's midnight and you never lent them sugar, you lent them your name. You don't move at first. You sit in the chair by the hearth, spine stiff, heart beating with the cadence of a fist. The child, you but not you, sleeps on the rug, curled against Air's ribs, breathing the way only the rescued dare to. The old woman doesn't stir. Her eyes are closed, but you know she isn't sleeping. Elders don't sleep. They stand guard behind their eyelids. Another knock. Careful, precise. 3 beats. Space. 3 beats. You hate how it reminds you of the soldier's march you heard in the bone tree clearing. Hair lifts its skull, sockets glowing faintly. Sockets that seem to squint toward the window as if annoyed. The ribbon tied around its neck hums, a low vibration that crawls up the floorboards and into your ankles. You whisper, "Don't answer." But the whisper is for yourself because doors don't care about your advice. The old woman exhales slowly. "Ledger," she says. Not a question, a diagnosis. Her cane taps once, sharp. Messengers arrived. Your mouth goes dry. "Already?" "Polite kind comes quick," she mutters. "Polite kind always does." The knock repeats, exactly the same rhythm. 3. Pause. 3. This time, something follows. A word, muffled by glass, but clear enough to twist your stomach. Your secret name. The one you thought only you knew. The one you spoke at the ribbon. It drips through the room like cold medicine, thick and bitter. The child stirs. Their eyes snap open, pupils wide. They sit up too fast, clutching their wrist as though the ribbon were still there. It knows, they whisper. Air huffs, mist curling from its sockets like smoke from a tired chimney. The old woman stands, slow and deliberate, and places a hand on the child's shoulder. "Stay down. Riders answer messengers, not heirs. You're already on your feet, though you don't remember standing." The knock repeats, softer now, almost patient. The politeness has teeth. You walk to the window. Frost clouds the glass, but behind it you see a figure. Tall, thin, shoulders wrapped in a cloak that isn't cloth but absence. Where the face should be, there's only a blur, like a mirror fogged by someone else's breath. But the hand, the hand is sharp, bony, white as porcelain. It taps once more, fingers long enough to reach through the pain if it wanted to. It doesn't force its way in. It waits. That's worse. You open your mouth, but the old woman's voice cuts across the room. "Do not invite, do not decline, balance first." You turn, helpless. Balance what? She raises her cane, draws a line in the air, between what it offers and what it asks. If you tip, it tips you. Another knock. The figure leans closer. For a fraction of a second, the blur clears, and you glimpse eyes. Not frost, not lanterns, ledgers. Black lines marching across pale whites, tally marks that blink. They widen when they meet yours. Then the blur returns. "Speak," the old woman orders. "Ask its due." Your throat burns, but you manage. "What's the debt?" The voice that answers is soft, elegant, so courteous it makes your skin itch. "One night? One ride? Return." The words press against your ribs. Return. You know where that leads. Back to the tree, back to the wards, back to the ledger that waits with open pages. The child hisses, "Don't." The old woman squeezes their shoulder. "Hush." The rider chooses. The figure tilts its head, waiting for your answer. Snow drifts against the window, muffling the world. The house creaks, uneasy. Air pours the floor once, sockets dimmed but watching. The ribbon hums harder, as though it already knows the answer you haven't spoken. You stall. "Return what?" The voice smiles through its syllables. "What is carried? What was borrowed? What should not stay?" Your stomach twists. It's not asking for toys. It's asking for you, or the child, or both. The old woman leans heavily on her cane. Polite kind doesn't take without consent, that's why it knocks. If you say yes, it keeps the contract. If you say no, it leaves. But only once. Refuse twice, and it returns with teeth. The knock comes again. 3. Pause. 3. You swallow hard. If I go, do I come back? The blur chuckles faintly. Politeness never promises. It only assures. The child is shaking, clutching Air's ribs. Don't, they whisper again. Don't give it what it wants. The old woman's eyes are sharp enough to cut glass. Sometimes child not giving costs more. You stand frozen in the frostlight, the messenger waiting with infinite patience, the ribbon humming, the house holding its breath. One night, one ride, return. The words spin around you like wolves circling fire. Air stamps once, hard. The tiles shiver, the sockets flare. The horse looks at you, really looks, and for the first time you think it's asking instead of commanding. Well, you stand there long enough to grow roots, and the messenger waits like a teacher who can outlast any tantrum. Politeness is a weapon with lace on the handle. The old woman doesn't blink. The child shakes their head so fiercely the air blurs. Air's sockets glow a little brighter, and the ribbon hum rises from the floorboards into your bones, turning your ribs into tuning forks. Balance first, the old woman repeats like a blessing with knuckles. Ask what it guarantees. Nothing, the messenger answers smoothly, before you can. But I provide receipts. Receipts. Of course, a good ledger never leaves without paperwork. If I go, you say, throat dry enough to splinter, I go alone, the child stays, untallied. The blur tilts where the face should be, as if smiling without committing. We accept conditions that fit in the margin. Write carefully. You look at the old woman. She nods once, not approval, not refusal, permission to own your mistake. The child clamps your sleeve with cold fingers. Don't, they plead, it will fold you. Maybe, you say, prying their hand free gently, maybe it needs me unfolded. You step to the window. Frost maps the glass into continents of winter. One night, one ride, I return. The child is exempt. Air rides with me. I sign for myself, not for the house. Each clause comes out like a nail tapped into wood you hope is thick. The messenger's porcelain hand taps the pane once. Agreed, it says, and the word breathes through the glass and into your ear as if distance were a rumor. Present your instrument. You glance at Air. The horse is already at the window, head lifted, socket steady. The ribbon thrums against the carved word Air, as if relieved to hear its job description said out loud. The old woman unhooks the latch with a click that sounds like arithmetic concluding. Cold slams into the room, polite and invasive. The messenger does not enter. It steps back, making space for your exit, as if to remind you this is your choice. You swing onto Air and the bones rearrange with practiced tenderness. The child scrambles up behind you on instinct, and the old woman yanks them back with a grip that could uproot saplings. Riders answer, she says to the child, low and firm. Heirs keep hearth. The child bares their teeth at the messenger, your teeth storm-polished, and the messenger inclines its blur, amused. Air, it murmurs, mind the fire. Air steps through the window without disturbing the frame, as if the glass learned to open its own ribs. Snow swallows the sound of your landing. The messenger turns, cloak of absence folding the night into neat corners, and glides toward the woods. The path opens the way polite people open doors for one another, performatively generous, eager to observe the rules. Ask it where, the old woman calls from behind you. Where, you repeat. Ledger, it replies, as if there were only one. But first, customs. The forest receives you like paperwork. Necessary, boring, dangerous if misfiled. The messenger never touches the ground. You hate that. Air's hooves leave no prints again, which feels like a prayer you can't stop saying. The trees thin, and the world tips toward a clearing where the snow has been swept into straight lines. At the center waits a gate built of vertebrae, arched, jointed, absurdly elegant, each knob polished to a bureaucrat's shine. A bell hangs from its apex, a skullcap with a tongue of carved marrow. Announce yourself, the messenger says. You stare at the bell. I'd rather not. Then I will. It lifts one porcelain finger, taps the bell once. The sound is small and precise and somehow carries for miles. In response, a light appears beyond the gate. One light, then rows of them, like windows deciding whether to be stars. The vertebrae gate flexes, spinal, and opens. The space beyond smells like ink and boiled bones and stale promises. Desks line the path. Behind each desk sits a figure wearing politeness like a uniform, tidy hair, tidy hands, tidy smiles with too many tally marks hiding behind them. Their ledgers are wide and willing. The messenger glides between them. You follow, Air's gait smoothing into the rhythm of paperwork. Each desk stamps something invisible as you pass. You can feel the stamps land on your skin like cold kisses. Name, one clerk says without looking up. You give your everyday one and the stamp bites. Alias, another says. You almost choke on the small secret word, then force it out. The stamp bites deeper. Hidden, murmurs a third, pen poised. You shake your head. No, the pen writes anyway. You feel the letters scratch under your ribs, exactly where the ribbon used to cinch. Air tosses its head. The clerk glances up, unimpressed. All names arrive, some late. You lean forward. One night, one ride. Return, you remind the messenger. It is written, it assures you, and a clerk to the left raises a receipt printed on paper so thin the numbers shine through with their own light. At the end of the desk stands another gate, this one of ribs welded into a fan, flanked by two statues shaped like mothers who learn to be doors. The messenger stops. Customs, it repeats. Declare your carry. You look down at yourself, at your pockets that are empty except for dread. Grief, you say, bone horse, a promise, 2 refusals and a lie I don't intend to spend. The clerk at the gate nods, unimpressed. Prohibitions? Children. Hearths. Names that aren't mine. The statues open. The ribs spread. Proceed. Beyond customs is a hallway that isn't a hallway but a slope of night bent into the shape of obedience. At its far end, the ledger, if the ledger could be a horizon. It looks like a city made of indexes, towers of pages, avenues of numbers, arches of signatures crocheted from ink. It hums a note you recognize from the bone tree and the hospital, accounting with devotions. The messenger stops at a low table and sets a book upon it. Your book, you realize with a small, unhelpful gasp. The cover is plain, the title blunt, Your Winters. Inside, each page is a day that pretended it was shorter than it wanted to be. Blank lines wait with patience, sharpened into cruelty. Sign, the messenger says. It produces a pen whose nib looks like a softened tooth. Where, you ask, because stalling is a spiritual practice now. Here, it says, tapping a line below a sentence that reads, one night, one ride, return. What ink? You ask idiotically. Yours, it says gently, and the pen pricks your finger with a kiss. Blood beads, honest and shy. You glance back. Air's sockets are dim, listening. The old woman's voice is absent. Of course she doesn't come here. The child is a warmth you can feel only if you invent it. You press the nib to paper. The bead spreads, drawing letters you intend to be your everyday name. The stroke begins obedient. It does not end obedient. Halfway through, the letter bends. The line doubles back. The curve goes wrong. Your hand tries to correct and finds itself guided, no, escorted, by a pressure that is not your will. You watch, horror slow and lavish, as your signature completes itself into another shape entirely. Your double's name, polite as a receipt. The messenger's hand lands on your wrist. Not hard, not soft, just definite. Thank you for your consent, it murmurs. Air screams without sound. The desk bells tinkle approvingly. The ledgers settle like crows. You yank your hand back, smear a red arc across the margin, and the book drinks it like a yes. The clerk at the ribs stamps the air. The stamp lands in your chest. No, you say, louder than politeness allows. That is not my... Signatures are intentions, not arguments, the messenger says. Its blur clears for one beat. The face behind it is not a stranger. It is older you, not the double. Older you. The you who would have said yes faster. The you who would have accepted that some receipts are blessings, actually. It blinks once, and the blur returns. Now, ride. The floor tilts toward a door you didn't see, because it wasn't there until just now. The word return is carved above it in a font that makes your stomach want to be smaller. Air rears, ribbon tightening against the carved word on its neck. You wrench the reins that aren't reins. We're leaving, you snarl. We are, the messenger agrees pleasantly. Exactly as written. The door swings open and the air beyond smells like your house after the fire dies. Warm, exhausted, terribly ready. You can already hear the child's breath. The old woman's cane, the world you love counting inventory in its sleep. A hand, yours not yours, catches your sleeve. The double steps from the threshold, wearing your signature like a mask that fits too well. Shall we? It asks, as if the receipt invited both of you. Air lunges. The clerk raises a stamp. The door widens. You realize too late that the return will carry you both. The return is not a ride, it's a collision. You and the double are shoved through the same doorway, stitched into the same trajectory, two signatures stapled on one receipt. Air kicks against the slope, sockets blazing, but the momentum drags you both like paper in a strong wind. The messenger glides behind, hands folded, satisfied. Politeness never hurries. It just arrives. Snow slaps your face. Air claws your lungs. You land in the yard outside the house, knees in frost, teeth rattling like loose dice. The double lands beside you with feline grace, brushing itself off with your gestures. The door behind you seals with a click polite enough to make you want to scream. The ledger has balanced. The rest is your problem. The old woman stands at the threshold, cane planted like a root. The child peeks around her shawl, wide-eyed, clutching the frame with both hands. Air stomps the snow beside you, ribbon taut around its neck, sockets blazing accusation. You try to speak, but the double beats you to it. I've returned, it says, your voice polished, your tone patient. Just as agreed. The child gasps. Their eyes dart between you and the double, trying to measure which of you smells more like home. The old woman doesn't blink. She looks from one to the other, then at Air. Which one carries the receipt? She asks. You lift your bleeding hand instinctively, the smear of the signature still raw across your skin. The double lifts its sleeve, revealing the exact same mark, burned neat and cruel. Two signatures, two consents. The ledger hedged its bets. The child backs away, whispering, "Two of you." Their voice cracks on the number. The double smiles, calm, generous. "Balance," it says. Politeness always provides balance. You want to shout it's a trick, but your throat clogs with ice. The old woman raises her cane and thumps the ground. "One of you is Echo," she declares. "One of you is Rider." The horse knows the difference. All eyes turn to Air. The bone horse lifts its skull, sockets dimming to embers. The ribbon hums. Slowly it steps between you and the double, ribs expanding, spine clicking. It lowers its head toward you first, sockets searching, weighing. For a second you dare to hope, until it turns and lowers its head to the double too. Equal, indecisive. The old woman mutters something sharp under her breath. Ledger made twins. Not mistake. Strategy. She glares at the messenger, but the figure is gone. Of course it is. Polite people never linger to watch the consequences. The double folds its arms, confident. "We share the horse." You choke on the suggestion. That's not how it works. "Why not?" It counters smoothly. "Two riders, one mount, balance." Its words are so reasonable they sting. I remember what you forget. You carry what I refuse. Together we're whole. The child whispers no, but their voice is too soft to weigh in. Air stands still, unreadable, sockets dim like coals pretending to sleep. The ribbon hums louder, a sound that worms into your ribs. The old woman plants her cane harder, snow spraying. Whichever rides first will decide the ledger's shape. That is the cost of return. She looks at you, then at the double. Choose, or it will. The double steps forward, smiling faintly. "I'll go first." "No." The word bursts out of you sharp, desperate. "You'll ride it back to the tree, to the wards. You'll sell what I can't afford to lose." "And you won't?" it asks softly. "You've already signed. You've already bled. You think you're cleaner than me." The truth stings worse than frostbite. You did sign. You let the receipt drink your blood. You stalled. You bargained. You lost. The ledger has your name, whether you deserve it or not. The child clutches the old woman's sleeve. "Make them stop," they beg. But the old woman shakes her head. "Not mine to decide. Mount chooses, or rider earns." You and the double stare at each other, mirror to mirror, waiting for the horse to tip the scale. Air paws the ground once, sockets flaring. It lowers itself to the snow, ribs flexing into a saddle large enough for one. Not two. One. The ribbon hums like a blade being sharpened. The double smirks. "Looks like it's my turn." You lunge before it can move, grabbing the ribbon with both hands. The horse jerks, startled, sockets flashing. The double grabs it too, and for an instant the two of you are bound together, hands locked on the same knot, breath steaming in the cold. The ribbon burns against your palms, heat spilling into your veins. The old woman shouts, "Balance or be!" But the words are lost under the hum, which rises into a shriek. The horse rears, dragging you both with it, hooves punching sparks into the snow. The ribbon coils tighter, binding your hands together, binding you to the double, binding you to air. You scream. The double laughs. The child covers their ears. The old woman slams her cane down, but the world has already tilted. Snow cracks open like paper tearing. The yard splits into a slope of night, and air plunges, dragging both riders into the ledger's mouth again. The last thing you see before the dark swallows you is the child, eyes wide, shouting a word you can't hear through the shriek. Maybe your name, maybe theirs, maybe both. Then the night seals over you like ink closing a book. The descent stitches your screams into one long receipt. You and the double tumble side by side, palms skinned by the same ribbon, dragged by air's bone momentum through a chute of frost that insists it is a hallway. The dark has texture, velvet at first, then corduroy, then ledger paper slicing your breath into neat columns. When your boots hit, the floor rings like a countertop. Fluorescent light shivers to life. You know this place. Customs, stamps, politeness with a scalpel. Air lands between you, skull lowered, sockets guttering. The ribbon around its neck tightens, then splits into two thinner bands without letting go. One slips into your fist, one into the doubles. A tie, formalized. The message is simple. Neither of you rides free. The Clarks don't look startled. Of course they don't. They already logged the probability of twins. Pens scratch. Bells tick. A sign appears over the ribs gate, letters arranging themselves with bureaucratic flourish. Dispute resolution, rider verse echo. Your stomach tries to fold itself into an envelope. The double squeezes its ribbon and smiles pleasantly. "We petition arbitration," it says in your polite voice. You cringe. "Arbiters eat names," you mutter. "Only unguarded ones," the double replies, then turns to the nearest clerk. "Docket." A drawer slides open with the serenity of a preacher sitting down. The clerk lifts a slate as if your crisis were a menu item. "Nature of dispute?" "Right of first ride," the double answers. "Scope of return." You could argue, but the clerk is already stamping. "Precedent invoked?" The double turns that gentle smile on you. "Old winter law." "Which clause?" You snap. "All of them," it says, as if kindness were a weapon with glitter on it. The clerk nods, impressed by audacity. A bell sounds, soft but absolute, and the ribs gate unfurls like a fan. Beyond it, not the long slope from before, but a room carved from tally marks. The walls are shelves. The shelves are numbered. The numbers are smug. At the far end sits the arbiter. It isn't a person or a creature. It's a chair, a very particular chair, high-backed, narrow, upholstered in an absence that gleams. The chair wears a dress of ledgers stitched together, margins laced with seal wax veins. Armrests end in quills, feet end in stamps. Above it hangs a single lamp the color of cold tea. You dread it the way the guilty dread polite questions. "Approach," the chair says without moving. You and the double are dragged forward by your ribbons. Air clatters, unwilling but obedient, like a saint pressed into politics. The arbiter's lamp brightens a touch, discovering your faces. "Rider," it says to you. "Echo," it says to the other. "We object to the characterization," you both say at once. "Wonderful. Harmony, at last." "Overruled," the chair murmurs, and a tiny stamp thumps inside your chest. You swallow. "One night, one ride, return." The messenger promised. "Assured," the chair corrects. Politeness assures. It does not promise. Quills rustle like birds that learned litigation. Statement of claim. The double gestures gracefully. "I claim first ride. Efficiency favors my stewardship. I carry what the rider cannot." "That's a confession, not a claim," you say. "It wants to sell my life for speed." The chair inclines, if a chair can incline. "Counterclaim. Custody of air," you say, surprising yourself. "Exclusive. Until the ledger releases us both." The room counts to one. The arbiter taps an armrest. A docket floats open, pages fluttering to a case that smells faintly of your childhood fear. "Precedent recognizes twinning under duress," it says. "Balancing remedy, audit." The word lands like a plate. The double's smile cracks a millimeter. Audit is invasive. Efficient, the arbiter replies, and its lamp brightens again. Air. Consent. Air lowers its skull. The carved word on its neck catches the light like a prayer acting brave. You feel the yes in your fist and horribly in the doubles. The chair claps once. The sound is the clap of a book closing on the wrong finger. The room reshapes. Shelves slide away. The floor becomes a scale long as a roadway, balanced on a fulcrum shaped like a kneeling apology. On the left pan, a circle of snow, a hearth smell, a child's crooked grin. On the right, the bone tree's surgeon branches, a hospital's tile echo, the gate of vertebrae humming like a hive. In the middle, blindfolded and armless, stands a figure woven from receipts. Place your carries, the arbiter instructs. You blink. Our carries? What you bring back when you return, the chair says. Every ride imports a cargo, lay it down. The double steps first, eager as a clerk who loves closing time. It sets a tidy stack of things you don't want to see. A whistle's shrill note folded into paper. A nail of frost with your fingerprint preserved in it. A thin disc of laughter with the edges shaved off. A scrap of your sleeve, torn where it grabbed you. The scale dips on the right. The bone tree side brightens, pleased. Your turn. You reach inside yourself, hands shaking, and pull out what you swore you'd hide. The scent of the child's hair the first minute they slept by the hearth. A spoonful of soup that tasted like permission. The old woman's look when she pretended she wasn't proud. A knock that didn't break the door. You lay them on the left pan. It dips, then steadies, then refuses to be heavy enough. More, the arbiter says, not unkind. I don't have more, you whisper. The double leans in, sympathetic. You do, you're just guarding it. Guard your name. Names are doors, doors lie. Fine. You unbutton your ribs, hate how easy it is, and lift out the smallest thing you've ever tried to carry. The secret word you spoke at the ribbon, now warm as a pulse. It resists your grip, sneaky, trying to crawl back home. You lay it on the left pan. The scale jerks. The fulcrum groans. The bone tree dims. The hearth brightens. The arbiter's lamp hums, pleased by arithmetic. Findings, it announces. Rider's cargo heavier by grace. Echo's cargo heavier by infrastructure. Remedy. Split custody. No, you and Air say together, surprising everyone, including the lamp. The horse's sockets flare, ribbon vibrating like a plucked wire. The chair pauses. Grounds? You point at the double. It carries systems that want me erased. I carry people who want me back. The double lifts its chin. Systems preserve people. Without me, your little hearth gets eaten by the first polite knock. Without me, your systems forget why they were built, you spit. Silence sits down between you. The arbiter's quills whisper among themselves, writing private minutes. At last the chair speaks. Modified remedy. Air holds both signatures. The ribbon pulses on cue, but accepts commands only from the name that answers a test. What test? The double asks, already calculating. A Winters, the arbiter says. A ride without return. Your bones go cold. That breaks the contract. It reframes it, the chair replies, polite and monstrous. One of you rides out for a night that refuses to end. If Air comes back on its own, the rider who stayed earns custody. If Air does not return, the ledger grants stewardship to the other. Air snorts, indignant. You grab its skull. I won't send it alone. You won't, the chair agrees, almost kindly. It will decide who is ballast and who is rider. The double smiles like a hymn. Air loves efficiency. It will choose me. You lean close to the horse, foreheads almost touching, forgetting the room, the clerks, the chair dressed in ledgers. Listen, you whisper into bone. Choose the one who remembers why we named you Air. For a breath, everything waits. The ribbon warms. The sockets brighten. Air steps between you, hooves ticking on the scale, and lowers itself for a rider. You hold your breath. The double holds its hand out. The arbiter's lamp swells with interest. Air turns its skull and kneels to the child's shadow that somehow followed you here. The clerks murmur in their rows, pens stuttering, stamps hovering in disbelief. The arbiter's lamp flares once, then dims, as though the very concept of surprise is offensive to its system. Air kneels low, sockets glowing toward the child's shadow. Not you, not the double. The shadow flickers on the floor, softer than smoke, shaped like the child curled by the hearth. You hear their laughter in it, faint, stitched with fear and defiance. That's not permitted, the double snaps. Its voice cracks your own way when you've been caught lying. Custody was between Ryder and Echo, the Arbiter's quills whisper. Custody is what air acknowledges, it says, voice even. Mounts are not bound to precedent, they invent it. The double trembles, fury hidden under politeness. A shadow is not a claimant, but the clerks are already stamping. The sound is a chorus of doors closing and opening in the wrong order. The shadow rises, no longer flat but dimensional, forming the outline of the child. Not flesh, not whole, but present enough for the ribbon to twist toward it, like a vein finding a heart. You reach out instinctively. Wait! The shadow child tilts its head at you. Its eyes are holes full of candlelight, familiar and wrong. When it speaks, the words carry two voices, the child's and something deeper, older. I inherit, because you argued. Air lowers further, waiting for the shadow to climb its ribs. The Arbiter leans back in its ledger dress. Test amended. Ryder is the heir. Claimants become witnesses. Echo remains ballast. The floor tilts. Suddenly you're no longer in the dispute chamber but in the woods again, the snow arranged like lines on a page. The sky hangs lower, swollen with unshed storms. The child shadow mounts air without effort, settling into the saddle as though they've done it before. The ribbon coils around their wrist, tightening without cruelty. You and the double are yanked along, dragged by invisible lines, your palms bound by twin cords that won't let go. You stumble beside the horse as it begins to move. The boy is waiting at the tree line, still holding your old bone, still unreadable. He nods at the shadow child, ignoring you both. Ledger's clever, he says softly. It always prefers heirs. The double snarls, straining against the pull. This isn't balance, this is theft. Balance is theft, the boy replies with a shrug. Something always gets taken. The horse carries you into the woods. Trees lean in like nosy neighbors, their branches heavy with frost that groans in sympathy. The snow hushes every step until all you hear is breathing. The child steady, the doubles ragged. Your own somewhere between begging and denial. You break first. Where are we going? The shadow child turns, candlelight eyes burning through you, to end what began, or to begin what ended. Riddles, the double spits. Always riddles. But you know better. They're not riddles. They're contracts written in a language polite enough to hide the blade. The forest parts, revealing the clearing where the bone tree waits. Except it's different now. The branches droop heavier, crowded with toys you don't recognize. Dolls with too many ribs, horses smaller than air carved from scapulars, boats with hulls of jawbones, their sails drooping like torn lungs. Each toy hums faintly, alive enough to judge you. The shadow child dismounts. They stand before the tree and raise their hands, ribbon still tethered to air. The tree groans, shivering snow into the clearing. Doors bloom in the air, dozens more than you saw before, each carved in frost and light. Behind them flicker scenes, barracks, kitchens, hospitals, cradles. Each one smells like loss reheated. The double pulls at your shared tether. Stop it, they hiss. If the air opens those doors, the ledger spills. It will drown everything. You want to believe them wrong. You want to believe there's still a rule that favors you. But the old woman's voice slides into your skull, cold and patient. Heirs don't balance, they inherit, even debts. The shadow child speaks, voice echoing with that doubled timbre. Choose, Ryder. Which door ends us kindly? The boy steps forward, holding the bone up like a lantern. Its letters swirl, undecided, as though the bone itself hasn't made up its mind. He looks at you. Not the double, not the shadow child. You. This is your only chance to tip it, he says. So you answer, or it answers for you. The doors blaze brighter. One shows your house, the hearth still warm. One shows the hospital ward, beds lined with sheeted figures. Another shows the bone tree itself, but burning, every toy shrieking like whistles. Another shows nothing but a dark corridor with a single chair waiting. Air stamps the snow, sockets flaring, ribbon vibrating like a plucked string. The shadow child raises their hand, about to point. The double squeezes your wrist, eyes wild. Don't let it choose. If it does, you'll never get home. The boy says nothing. He just watches, as though waiting to see if you'll finally act instead of stall. The old woman's voice murmurs one last time. Guard your name. Doors lie. Balance or B? The shadow child points. The chosen door creaks open, spilling light that smells like ink and iron. Air surges forward. The tether yanks you off your feet, and you realize, too late, that it wasn't you who chose. It is not light. Not really. It's the sheen of wet ink drying on a verdict. The door inhales you, and air drags both of your bodies like commas in a sentence that refuses to end. The shadow child rides ahead, ribbon humming, candlelit eyes fixed on a point past logic. Your boots scrape across a floor that feels like frozen parchment. The double stumbles beside you, still tethered, still poised to claim the first breath you lose. The room is a hall of chairs, single identical, arranged in columns, each facing a lectern made of ribs. On every lectern sits a nameplate carved from knucklebone, blank until you walk past. Then it inks itself with someone you failed. The smell is iron and paper, and the whisper of a pen about to tell the truth. Above, a ceiling of ledger pages ripples, each page a sky of ruled lines. The shadow child dismounts and stands at the first chair. The bone nameplate inks a word that isn't yours and somehow is. Air. They sit. The chair accepts them with terrible relief, like a wound glad to have a bandage, even if it suffocates. This is the end, the double says, soft with triumph. Chairs are sentences. Once the air sits, the rooms rehearse forever. No. Your voice comes out small but stubborn. Air is a verb. You turn to the horse. Carry. Air steps sideways, inserting its ribbed body between the shadow child and the lectern. The nameplate sputters and tries to rewrite itself. The ribbon tightens on all three wrists, yours, the double's, the child's, then loosens as if deciding to give you one last mistake. The boy arrives as if he always had permission, bone tucked under his arm, snow glittering on his lashes like punctuation. Listen, he says, not to you, not to the echo, but to the room. We have receipts. He holds up the bone. Letters climb its length like frost learning to speak. Your everyday name. Your hidden one. The child's ribbon scar that has turned into a word. The echo's false signature flares and dims, embarrassed by light. Receipts, murmurs the ceiling. Pages rustle. Chairs creak. Somewhere in the rows, a skull whistle gives a thoughtful note, as if considering due process. The double squeezes your tether. Take the seat, it breathes. Before the air chooses them all, you look down the aisle. 1,000 chairs. 10,000. Each with a lectern eager to spell you. The child turns their candle eyes toward you. For a second you see the hearth fire reflected inside. Not many seconds left like that. The old woman's lesson climbs your spine. Balance, or B. You step to the center row and raise both your hands, palms open, fingers trembling. No lectures, you say. No chair gets my weight unless it's shared. You look at the echo. You want efficiency? Split it. You can't split a sentence, it says, genuinely annoyed. That's why they made semicolons. The boy coughs a laugh. He's right about punctuation, tragically. Air lowers its skull between you. The carved word on its neck glows as if remembering why language invented airs at all. The ribbon pulls you and the double closer, until your shoulders touch, until your breaths beat the same fog. It is horrible. It is also possible. Choose, the ceiling says. Ink drips like rain, dotting your coat with ellipses. Chair or door? Door, the double says instantly. Chair, you blurt, then taste regret. Trap, the room smiles through paper. Balance. One sits, one opens. The shadow child watches, hands folded on their knees like a judge pretending to be a child. In their posture is a mercy you don't deserve yet. Air rubs its jaw along your shoulder, then along the echoes, indecisive, impatient. You meet the double's eyes. It is you, all the way down to the inconvenient parts. If I sit, I stop moving, you say. If you open, you sell us to the coldest bidder. If I sit, I calcify, it counters. If you open, you wander, until politeness teaches you gratitude. Both true, neither sufficient. The bone in the boy's hands warms. Letters stutter, then align into a sentence that wasn't there a breath ago. A rider sits only where they can hear the door. He reads it aloud, voice steady. Compromise, he says. Shared seat, shared hand on the handle. The ceiling sighs, irritated, but the lecterns do not object. Politeness loves to claim it invented compromise. The shadow child nods, grave. Air kneels between the first two chairs as if they were stirrups. The ribbon loosens and reknots, binding your wrist to the echoes, binding both to Hare's neck in a figure 8. The knot hums. Not a trap, a harness. You and the echo sit. The chair is colder than confession. Bones rise to support your spine, learning your crookedness with suspicious speed. At the same moment, a door appears on your left, plain, unmarked, nerve-colored. Its knob is ribbed like a spine. On my count, you say. On mine, the double says. Air butts your elbows until you both laugh, an ugly, involuntary sound that cracks the ceiling for a heartbeat. You reach with your joined hands and close your fingers around the knob. It thrums like a mouse's heart. The boy steps back, bone held like an appeal. The shadow child leans forward, candle eyes reflecting nothing but your reflection. 1, you say. 2, it says. You both whisper 3. The door swings and the chair reclines. The room folds around your decision like paper accepting origami. Wind hits your faces, the kiln breath of the ward, the freezer breath of the tree, the warm breath of the hearth. 3 weathers, 1 mouth. Your joined hands are dragged across all of them at once. The chair tries to own your weight and fails. The door tries to own your step and fails. The knot holds. Through the door, not a corridor but a circle, cut into snow and tile and ash, the 3 places fused. The bone tree grows from the ward floor. The ward beds line the forest. Your house sits at the clearing's edge with its windows full of busy stars. The old woman stands in the doorway, eyes hard, mouth soft. Finally, she says, as if you showed up late to your own birth. The messenger lurks beside the fence, polite as a blade in a napkin. Receipt? It inquires. The boy tosses it the bone. Paid, he says. The messenger catches it with porcelain grace and flinches anyway. The letters burn its blur clear for a beat. Your face older again, then gone. The shadow child rides Air into the circle. You and the echo rise from the chair with the door still in your grip. Every toy on the tree rattles. Every bed in the ward inhales. Your house glows brighter as if bracing. The ribbon tugs, forward back, testing loyalty, testing tensile strength. Decide, the old woman says. No please, no cushion. Where do you tie the knot? You look at the echo. It looks back, honest in the worst way. Hearth, you say. Ledger, it says. The shadow child gazes at your house, then at the ward, then up into the branches of bone and ribbon, where names pulse like patient stars. Candlelight flickers in their eyes. Balance or be, they murmur, and you realize they remember the lessons better than you. Air stamps twice. The knot leaps from your joined wrists, splits, whips through the air like a trained rope. One end lashes the house's door handle, the other loops the lowest branch of the tree. The middle twists around the bedpost of the nearest ward cot. 3 ties, 1 knot. The humming stops, then starts again. Deeper, wider, not angry now, merely awake. The messenger stares, politely appalled. This is irregular, the old woman grins without humor. Families are, the ward exhales. The tree relaxes a fraction. Your house breathes. The echo's hand tightens in yours, surprised, almost admiring. The circle steadies under your boots. Something knocks once on the sealed 4th door behind the house. Not polite, not patient. A new rhythm. 4. Pause. 2. The boy's head snaps up. The messenger goes very still. Air lifts its skull and turns toward the sound. The shadow child says, "That one doesn't ask consent." And the 4th door begins to open. The 4th door does not creak, it tears. Its edges curl outward, frost peeling like skin. The rhythm you heard, 4 knocks, pause, 2, keeps hammering in the air. Not from outside now, but from inside your ribs, as though the door has borrowed your heartbeat for percussion. The house groans, the tree shudders, the ward beds rattle in their corners. Politeness is gone. Whatever this is, it doesn't ask politely. Air rears, sockets blazing white hot, ribbons straining at all 3 of its new anchors, the hearth, the tree, the ward. It wants to bolt. It wants to carry. It doesn't know where. The shadow child clutches its spine, candle eyes flaring. The echo grips your wrist tighter, not out of malice now, but raw survival. You feel its nails, your nails, biting into your skin. The old woman slams her cane against the snow, voice sharp as iron. Don't answer it. As if it hears, the door answers for her. A hand pushes through the gap. Not porcelain, not bone. Flesh, if flesh could be stripped of memory, pink as raw meat and glistening with cold. The fingers grope blindly, too many joints bending in too many directions, and seize the air like it owes them something. The knocking stops. The hand drums instead, tapping rhythms against nothing, impatient, rehearsing. The messenger, blur still intact, bone tucked under its arm, takes a step back. For the first time, you see hesitation in its posture. That, it says, almost whispering, is not ledger. That is collection. The boy frowns. Collection. The messenger tilts its blur uneasy. When debts go unpaid too long, when receipts rot in drawers, something comes to gather them. Not polite, not precise, just hungry. The hand stretches further. Another joins it, then another. The air splits wider. You glimpse the arm behind them, longer than it should be, knotted with ropes of muscle and vein that twitch like worms. The creature hasn't even stepped through yet, but already the knot around your wrist hums in agony. The shadow child leans close to Air's ear, whispering in that doubled voice, "Ride or be ridden." The echo tugs your arm. "This isn't my problem," it hisses. "Then why are you trembling?" You snap back. The old woman raises her cane, strikes the ground, and the snow circle flashes bright, a barrier flaring for just a moment. The hands recoil, hissing, but then slam against the air harder, cracking the glow like ice under boots. The boy looks at you, just you. You tied the knot 3 ways, that means you have 3 exits. He gestures. The hearth, the ward, the tree. Pick one, fast. The echo snarls. Hearth. We run. The shadow child shakes their head. Tree. Only the branches can hold it. You look at the ward and feel your stomach twist. Ward, you whisper. It was built to contain. The creature's face pushes through the gap before anyone can argue. If it has a face. Its features are blurred, not like the messenger's polite disguise, but like wet paint smeared by impatient fingers. 2 black pits blink open and shut at random. A mouth splits wide across its surface, not horizontal but vertical, lined with teeth like snapped pencils. It leans forward, breathing steam that smells of burned coins and damp wool. The clerk's stamping from earlier echoes in your head. Useless now. Receipts mean nothing to this. This isn't here to balance. This is here to eat. The old woman growls. Choose, rider. The knot will follow. You glance at Hare. Its sockets flare between you and the double, then toward the child. The ribbon tightens, begging for command. Another arm forces its way out of the 4th door. The wood splinters. The hinges scream. The air itself bends with the pressure. You make your choice, you shout the word. The ribbon snaps taut in that direction, dragging all 3 ties with it. Air bolts. The child clings. The echo curses. The old woman slams her cane one last time, and the house shutters close like eyelids squeezing tight. Behind you, the 4th door bursts wide. The creature steps through. The word leaves your mouth like a lever thrown, and the world obeys. The knot jerks toward tile and bleach and iron beds. Air lunges, ribs flexing, sockets flaring. The circle tilts, the forest slides sideways, the house telescopes away, and the bone tree thins into a sketch. You crash onto a floor you already hate. White that isn't clean, gloss that remembers boots. The ribbon yanks the 3 anchors with you. A hearth smell rides the air, a branch shadow drapes the ceiling, and the bedposts line up like soldiers who forgot their names. Behind, the 4th door bangs the wall, and the collector spills through. A tangle of meat and intention, too many elbows, a mouth that learned vertical because horizontal was too polite. Its hands slap the threshold and leave wet palm prints that steam. The old woman's last look, teeth bared, cane lifted, vanishes as the ward inhales you whole. Containment, you croak, though it sounds like begging. Inventory, the echo says, trying for calm and landing on nausea. Balance or be, the shadow child reminds, voice doubled and steady. They slide from the saddle, candle eyes bright and unsentimental, and plant their feet like a stop sign that has been chewed on and kept working anyway. Air rears and strikes the tile. The sound rings down the corridor like a bell that never forgets who it summons. The ward wakes. Every bed shivers. The suspended toys stir. Rib drums, jaw boats, vertebrae dolls, whistles. Ribbons tighten around wrists that aren't any longer, binding memory to furniture. The ceiling lights flicker from mercy to audit and back. At the far end, a door marked discharge unmarks itself. You don't want to know what it says now. The collector steps in. Cold pushes ahead of it like a front line. Its face, or the guess of one, tilts, sniffing for due accounts. Its mouth opens along that upright seam and exhales a breath that smells like coins boiled in laundry water. The nearest toys twitch harder, as if each little instrument recognizes a conductor. Hey, you tell it, because stalling has gotten you surprisingly far. We filed receipts. It doesn't have eyes, but whatever it's using swivels toward you. The mouth folds wider. Rows of pencil teeth click like abacus beads. It drums its fingers on the air, 4, paws 2, and every ribbon in the room answers with a nervous hum. Containment protocol, the echo says briskly, like you've both trained for this. We isolate, then we bind. With what? Your hands are empty except for terror. The boy is suddenly there, which should bother you but somehow doesn't. He lifts your old bone, letters crawling its length. Names are doors, he says, and doors become walls if you turn them the other way. Then turn, the shadow child says. Air snorts, and steam scrawls a map only it seems to read. The ribbon around its neck thrums and splits again, new threads unfurling like arteries. One snakes to the nearest bedpost, another lashes the leg of a rolling tray, a third loops the knob of a cabinet. Improvised architecture. You grab the free end and yank. The knot tightens. The ward notices and begins to help. Bed frames inch, wheels lock. A screen with orderly silhouettes rolls itself into place as though volunteering for triage. The collector doesn't like that. It surges, arms shooting out like grappling hooks. One hand catches a bed rail. The rail bends with a squeal. Another hand slaps a whistle and it screams, long, shrill, exact, splitting your thoughts into ribbons. The child doesn't flinch. They step into the scream and answer with your secret word, that splinter-sized syllable you pried from your ribs. The whistle chokes, then goes quiet as if a throat remembered manners. Keep it inside the square, the boy orders, slamming the bone against tile. Letters flare and a luminous grid sizzles into being, 4 lines boxing the collector like chalk around a stain. The thing slams the new walls with its hands. Each hit leaves a print that crawls and drips. Air lowers its skull and pushes back, gently, insistently, until the grid steadies. Hold, you whisper to everything. Hold. The echo squeezes your wrist. Left flank, it says. It's testing the seam. You look. The grid there is dimming, the line sagging where a bed's wheel doesn't lock true. You sprint, heel sliding. The collector's hand shoots across the floor and grabs your ankle. Heat and cold hit together, boiled coin breath and ice burn, and a row of teeth nicks your boot. Air whirls, catches the wrist with a strike that cracks bone that isn't bone. The hand shrivels back, fingers thrashing like hooked eels. You kick free and jam the wheel until the click sounds like a prayer. Names, the boy warns. It eats the unguarded ones first. So you start saying them, quiet, furious, precise. Not just your everyday name, not the echo's false one, not only the secret splinter. You whisper the old woman's hidden name that you will never repeat outside your head. You whisper the child's before the war name, the one that tastes like summer. You whisper Air's first carved word, hair, and then the one you never told anyone you tried out in your mouth the first night you rode it, home. Each name is a brick. Each brick stiffens the light. The collector hisses, offended by architecture. It presses itself taller, scraping the ceiling, and then the vertical mouth splits further, revealing a second row of teeth angled backward, greedy for return. It stabs hands through the grid. The lines hold, but they stretch, trembling. The ward groans. A bed snaps a leg and collapses. A ribbon whips and wraps your wrist, panicked, then loosens, apologetic. Bind, the echo says, voice like a stapler. We need a spine. Take mine, the shadow child says at once. You whirl. No. Their candle eyes don't blink. Air carries. Air inherits. If someone rides forever, let it be someone already half-ridden. They lift their chin, wrist extended. The boy shakes his head, jaw set. No heirs fed to collection. That's how winters curdle. Then who? You ask, throat raw. Air answers by stepping into the square. It's not a charge, it's a devotion. The bone horse moves with patient inevitability, sockets bright, ribs expanding like a bellows, bracing for him. It plants its hooves at the 4 corners. Don't ask how, that's Air's trick. and the grid climbs its legs, wraps its spine, threads the carved word on its neck. The lines thicken, rope to beam to wall. The collector slams against Hare's chest and sticks, teeth grinding against the word ear until the letters spark. No, you say, hands on bone. No. It's an argument against physics, against contracts, against stories that like tidy sacrifices. Air doesn't look at you, it looks at the child. The child nods once, solemn. Balance or be. Air breathes out. The breath fogs the collector's face and freezes it mid-snarl. Seal it, the boy commands, voice breaking. He thrusts you the bone. Say it right. You don't know what right is, so you do what you've done since the first knock. You improvise like you mean it. You raise the bone and say your everyday name, your secret, the old woman's, the child's, the echo's. You even say the messenger's blur name you don't have. You invent it out of politeness and rage. And then you say the word that sits under all of them, like a foundation poured in bad weather. Stay. The grid flares. The ward lights blaze. The collector's hands claw at air that just turned to glass. It shrieks with its whole vertical mouth. The sound breaks the fluorescent hum, and your last reserve of patience. Air stands, immovable, ribs locked around the thing like a cage that chose its prisoner. Receipt, the messenger murmurs from the doorway, as if it's been there all along. Which it has, which it always is. Later, you snarl. Now, it says, unusually firm. Binding requires witness. The old woman limps in, cane ticking a metronome that tells the room what hour it is. Enough. She looks at the horse, at the trapped thing, at you, at the child, at the echo, through you all like X-ray. Charge? She asks, because names aren't enough. Verbs matter, you swallow. We name this a ward. We keep what would eat. We keep ourselves. Rider, she says to you. Echo, to the other. Air, to the child. Write. You don't have ink. You don't need it. You press the bone to the tile and pull it like a quill. Letters carve. Crooked, stubborn, true. The echo sets its hand over yours, guiding the line straighter. The child covers both your hands with their small, scorching palm. Together, you inscribe a sentence across the floor the collector can't stand on. Return refused. The ward exhales. The grid hardens. The collector thrashes, then stills, seething inside the lattice of Air's bones. Its mouth closes to a slit, then a seam, then a scar. Silence pours in, deep and relieved. You sag. The ribbon slacks. Air's sockets dim, then gutter, then glow again. Tired, proud, present. The messenger clears its throat. Receipt, it repeats, softer. The boy hands it the bone. For once, the blur doesn't hide the face behind. You catch a glimpse of grief that looks like you in a year you hope not to see. It stamps the air. The stamp lands in your chest. Not heavy this time, not punitive, just official. The old woman touches your cheek with rough fingers that don't apologize. Good, she says. Now sleep. You want to. Oh, you want to. But at the far end of the ward, the discharge door inks itself again, letters crawling into a new word you do not like. Appeal. The handle turns. The handle rattles once, twice, then stops, as if whoever is behind the appeal door knows you're watching. That's worse. At least hunger is predictable. Appeals are endless. The old woman doesn't flinch. She plants her cane hard against the tile and says, "Don't answer." But her jaw tightens, betraying memory. She's seen this before. The boy edges closer, bone clutched against his chest. Its letters crawl frantic, rearranging themselves into half-sentences that vanish before you can read them. Ledger never lets containment stand uncontested, he mutters. It always gives the other side a chance to argue. The echo smirks, thin and sharp. Then let it. I like arguments. You want to slap the smirk off your own face. It's not an argument, it's bait. The shadow child stands near Air, who glows faintly from the effort of being a prison. Their candle eyes flick toward you. Balance or be, they remind, though softer this time, almost like sympathy. The handle turns again. This time the door creaks open just enough for a voice to slide through. Not the collector's guttural hiss, not the messenger's polite whisper. Something worse. Your own voice. Let me out. Every bed in the ward shivers. Toys twitch against their ribbons. You feel your stomach fold in half. The echo tilts its head, amused and horrified at once. That's not me. The old woman glares at the door. Of course it's not you. It's the part of you the ledger kept in escrow. The door eases wider. You see the glow inside, pale, bureaucratic, like lamplight over paperwork. A figure stands just beyond the threshold. Your height, your stance, your shadow, but cleaner, straighter. Like someone ironed your life and trimmed off the wrinkles. They smile at you, calm and professional. Look at you, they say in your tone, but neater. Messy, improvised, always stalling. You don't belong in the rider's seat. I do. The echo stiffens beside you, offended. Excuse me, that's my job description. The figure in the door ignores them. Their eyes, your eyes, but sharper, settle on air, bound and glowing. Release it, they say. Containment is inefficient. Appeal is orderly. Hair stamps, sockets dimming in resistance. The shadow child presses their hand against its ribs, steadying the glow. The ribbon hums in protest, caught between too many claimants. The boy whispers, "Don't listen." But of course you're listening, because the voice is yours, shaped into something persuasive, something that feels like an upgrade. It doesn't hiss or demand. It doesn't drum on the walls. It just offers. You're tired, it says gently. You've carried too long. Balance is a job for someone disciplined. I can take over, you can rest. You glance at the old woman, she's staring at you hard, as though daring you to nod. The echo mutters, "If you let that one in, there'll be 3 of us. 4 if you count the child." Arithmetic like that gets hungry. The door opens another inch. The figure raises their hand, the same porcelain neatness as the messenger, but with your scars erased. "Say yes," they murmur. "Say yes, and the ledger will tidy all this. No more knocks, no more shadows, just order." The word order tastes like sleep, and part of you wants it bad. The shadow child steps forward. Their doubled voice cuts through the air. "That one is a false door. Don't guard it. Burn it." The echo hisses. "Burning a door leaves a hole." The boy looks at you. Ryder decides. Always has. The figure in the doorway smiles. Patient. Certain. "Choose me." Your hand twitches toward the knob. The old woman slams her cane down. "Ask the price." The word jolts you like a shock. You look at the figure. "What's the cost if I let you out?" They don't hesitate. You lose nothing. You gain everything. Which, of course, is the wrong answer. No ledger offers gain without cost. Air snarls. Actually snarls. Sound scraping through bone. And the lights flicker. The collector, trapped in its ribs, thrashes, sensing weakness. The ribbon strains. You feel the choice closing in, sharp as a blade. Refuse the appeal and strengthen the ward, or accept it and risk everything unraveling in the name of order. The figure waits, hand outstretched, smile steady. The shadow child whispers, "Say the word." The old woman growls, "Balance or be." The boy clutches the bone, letters sparking, ready to record whichever disaster you pick. And you open your mouth. The ward tilts forward, waiting to see if you'll close the door or step through it. You inhale the antiseptic air until your lungs taste like paperwork, and you hear the old woman's command knocking around your skull. Ask the price. The thing in the appeal doorway, your tidied self, ironed and archived, tilts its head with professional patience. No cost, it repeats, clean as a stamped form. Behind you air growls again, a scrape of bone on bone that says, even horses know bad accounting when they hear it. Wrong answer, you say, and your voice surprises you by sounding steady. Ledger doesn't run on charity. The figure smiles like a knife put away in the right drawer. Very well. If you insist on theatrics, you relinquish discretion. That's all. We make decisions for you, you stop improvising. The echo barks a laugh. Discretion is the only thing keeping the roof on. The shadow child steps closer to the door, candlelight burning in their empty eyes. Names are doors, they murmur. Appeals are holes with better handwriting. The boy edges to your side, bone hugged to his ribs, letters skittering like nervous fish. The old woman, bless her spine, doesn't move. She leans her weight on the cane and glares the way a winter learns to glare after it has buried enough. You lay your palm on Air's neck under the carved word, and the ribbon warms your bones with a hum you recognize as vote counting. Price named, you say to the door. I refuse. The air between knob and palm quivers. Your perfect clerk self blinks once. The smile slides thinner. Refusal noted, it says courteously. Counter offer. We take the echo instead. The echo goes very still. Then, because you are you, your other you straightens and smiles with all the teeth you both own. You can't afford me. The clerk self's eyes narrow, a microprint of annoyance. We can afford everything. Not this, the echo says lightly, and threads its fingers through yours, lacing your hands the way people do when they're pretending not to be scared. We're bundled. Air snorts approval. The ward hums back. The collector, trapped in the horse's ribs, rattles its vertical teeth, angry that the conversation is not about eating. At the far end of the corridor, a light dies and sputters back to life like a witness changing its story. Close it, the boy whispers. Burn it. Both. Both? You repeat. Appeal and collector, he says, nodding at the door, then at the thing steaming behind Air's lattice. Two mouths, one sentence. You look at the old woman. Her chin dips a fraction. Permission to swing. All right. If this is going to be theatre, it might as well be arson with paperwork. You lift the bone from the boy's arms. It's hot as breath and heavier than regret. Letters begin lining up on their own, trying to pre-write your spell like a very helpful mistake. Don't let the door name itself, the shadow child warns. Use your names, all of them. The clerk self's smile cools. You're embarrassing yourself. Add it to the minutes, you mutter, and raise the bone like a gavel. First, the small one, the sliver word that loosened knots and made ribbons scream. You speak it like it owes you rent. The appeal placard blots for a heartbeat. The neat letters smear. Second, the everyday name, the one you learned at a table with chipped plates. You say it like a promise that refuses to sit. The jam shudders. The knob grows warm under your palm. Third, the echo's counterfeit, because counterfeit or not, it's yours. It grew out of your omissions. You say it too, owning the bruise. The door inhales sharply, as if a clerk forgot to be polite. Fourth, the old woman's hidden winter name, the one you can only speak inside your head. You don't say it out loud. You think it as hard as a prayer made of elbows. The door's wood checks, hairline cracks running grain like veins. Fifth, the child's before-the-war name. You set it in the air like a lantern for moths. Candlelight flares inside their eyes. The appeal letters stutter. Last, Air's secret. Home. The one you never told anyone you'd tried on your tongue. You exhale it, and the ward breathes with you. The bone heats your hand like noon. Denied, you say, and bring the bone down against the knob. A sound like a stamp the size of a city slams the corridor. Light skates off tile. Frost evaporates in a sigh. The door doesn't explode. It unthinks itself, panel by panel, until only the brass plate remains, hanging in the air like a slur. The plate wobbles, then melts into a droplet of letters that spatter harmlessly onto the floor and skitter away like ashamed ink. The clerk self blinks once, twice, rearranging their face. For a moment, they look exactly like you, tired and stubborn. Then the blur pours over them like polite tar. Very well, they say smoothly. Appeal deferred. Denied, you correct. Deferred, they repeat, and the blur takes them back into the hallway that isn't, until only the smell of dry paper remains. Silence lands on the ward the way snowfall does in the hour after midnight, soft, total, suspicious. The child's shoulders drop a fraction. The echo sags, then pretends it didn't. You lower the bone and realize your arms are shaking. That one will come again, the old woman says dryly. They always do. The boy nods. It didn't get custody this round. Next round it brings a representative. You mean a worse me, you ask. A tidier you, the echo says. Which is worse? Lovely, you mutter. Put it on my calendar. A subtle pressure reminds you the ledger still has a mouth in the room. The collector is silent inside Air's lattice, but silence like that is never empty. It's coiled. Black frost creeps along the bars of bone, chewing light like beetles. Air's sockets gutter, then steady, and the ribbon twangs in your bones like a low note, meaning hold. It's not over, the shadow child says, as if announcing the weather. It never is, the old woman answers, but we can choose where it storms. She gestures with her cane. Rider, echo, boy, air, child. Draw the line. What line? You ask. The one that turns a ward into a room, she says. Rooms forgive faster. You understand barely. Containment is a geometry of mercy. You kneel, bone as chalk, and start to draw. A rectangle around air. No, a circle. Circles are kinder. They leave corners out. A second circle around the beds nearest, touching without pinning. A third, wider, stitching bedposts and trays and screens into a domestic shape that remembers how people breathe when their names aren't being audited. The echo sketches with you, making the lines cleaner, more legible. The boy anchors corners no circle has. The child presses their palm to each curve until candlelight travels the chalk like marrow. When the last stroke closes, the fluorescent lights stop flickering. The tiles stop pretending to be ice. The air warms by a degree that could be called faith if you squint and cheat. Even the collector's frost pauses, listening. "Good," the old woman says. "Now speak the hearth into it." You balk. "Here? Especially here." So you do what you did as a smaller human in a colder room. You describe a fire until the room believes you. Wood that pops because sap is both dramatic and sincere. Smoke that clings and forgives. A pot that thinks in soups. The creak of a chair that learned your weight and decided not to complain about it. You say it all like instruction, like recipe, like spell. Air exhales. A bead of warmth blooms where your chalk lines cross, and you smell pine and something red and sweet. Jam that tastes like memory when you're poor, like luxury when you're not. The circle glows softly. The beds go quiet, their suspended toys still as punctuation that has finally found its sentence. The boy looks at your work the way a careful person looks at a dangerous bridge that holds anyway. "That will cost you," he warns. "When doesn't it?" you say. The echo squeezes your shoulder. "Bill me later." The messenger, who has been politely pretending not to exist at the threshold, clears its throat. Its blur is less confident now. "Receipt," it tries. You hold out your open palm. "Bring it here." To your surprise, it obeys. A thin paper coalesces in the air, numbers faintly luminous, signature line waiting like an appetite. The heading reads, "Ward, Interim Home." Below, a clause you've never seen. Ledger acknowledges domestic geometry as temporary exemption. "Sign," the messenger says. "With what?" you ask, already knowing. "Not blood," the old woman interjects. "Hearth documents aren't paid in red." She taps her cane at your chest. "Breath, blow." You laugh, because of course, and exhale across the paper. The letters drink it, steam becoming ink. Your name writes itself in fog, then sets. Beside it, a second signature appears without your permission. The echo's, hand steadier than yours. Then a third, the shadow child's, a small, decisive flourish. The messenger stamps all three and lets the receipt dissolve back into the corridor's polite nowhere. "What now?" the echo asks, too casual. You can hear the tremor under it. "Now," the old woman says, "we move the bed." She points to a cot beside your new lit circle. You and the echo grab one end, the boy and the child the other, and you carry it over the chalk. Its wheels squeak a verse. You set it down near Air, who lowers its skull like a host approving a guest list. The old woman straightens the sheets with the efficiency of someone who's done this literally forever. "Sleep," she orders. You open your mouth to argue. Insist there are 12 more disasters queued up, but your bones cut you off. Air's lattice hums softer now, less prison than promise. The collector sulks inside, a storm in a jar. The fourth door is shut. The appeal plate is a stain you can live with. The ward smells faintly of soup you haven't made yet. You lie down. The echo lies on the floor with its coat over its face like a soldier cheating privacy. The child curls in the chair with their knees under their chin. The boy sits cross-legged with a bone across his lap, a sentry who learned to blink. The old woman keeps her seat and aims her gaze at the corners until the corners give up the idea of mischief. You close your eyes. From somewhere, wood, wind, your own ribs, a lullaby you don't know starts humming itself. It sounds like a train you survived. It sounds like names being held very gently by someone who doesn't want them to fall. And just before sleep drops like a stamp, you hear the messenger whisper, almost kind, "Tomorrow, the ledger audits love." Of course it does. Morning comes in the ward like a lie. It imitates sunlight, but the ceiling's fluorescent tubes are the ones pretending, humming their pale counterfeit hymn. Your body aches from the cot, but the ache is better than the gnaw that haunted you in the clearing. Hair stands motionless, lattice glowing faintly. The collector still pinned in its ribs like a bug someone important forgot to catalogue. The child snores in the chair, knees under their chin, candlelight guttered but not gone. The echo sprawls on the floor, one arm thrown over their eyes, mouth open like they're rehearsing excuses. The old woman hasn't moved. She sits upright, cane across her knees, eyes on the sealed appeal door. "Don't trust quiet," she says, voice rasping enough to sand wood. "Quiet is ledger ink drying." The boy blinks awake, bone still across his lap. Letters crawl on its surface, spelling fragments of sentences that dissolve before meaning. He squints at you. "How much did you dream?" You rub your eyes. "All of it." Then softer. "And none." The echo yawns, groaning. "I dreamed taxes." That can't be good. The old woman raps her cane once. "Audit day." The word sucks heat from the room. Even the fluorescent tubes flicker, as if reluctant to testify. Air lifts its skull, sockets dim and wary. The ribbon around its neck tightens, humming the way a wire hums before it snaps. From nowhere, or maybe everywhere, a bell chimes. Not the polite kind, not the collector's drumming. A bell with courtroom gravity, low and patient, ringing once for each mistake you hoped no one noticed. The discharge door inks itself again, letters crawling into a new word. Audit. The handle turns, and this time no one tells you not to answer, because audits don't knock. They arrive. The door swings wide. Figures march through, not clerks, not collectors, auditors. You know them instantly. Everyone wears your face, but each specializes in a different flaw. One is thin as a hunger you pretended was fasting. Another is fat with every comfort you took without permission. A third is bent crooked from the lies you never corrected. They carry clipboards carved from scapula, pens sharpened to a point finer than bone needles. The lead auditor, tall, tidy, with your jaw set into permanent disapproval, clears its throat. Inventory. Love. The word rattles the suspended toys. The child stirs, eyes wide. The echo sits up, lips pressed thin. The old woman doesn't blink. The boy whispers, "They'll weigh what you've loved against what you've carried. If the scales tip wrong..." "What?" you demand. "They repossess." You almost laugh. "Reposses love." The auditor nods, patient, polite. Love is debt. Unpaid, it defaults. The child steps forward, fists balled. Not theirs to weigh, they insist. Candlelight flickers in their eyes, shaky but fierce. The auditor raises a pen. All affection carries interest. You want to scream at the absurdity, but air stomps once, ribs rattling, and you know better than to mock what has paperwork on its side. The echo leans against you, whispering hot and bitter. They'll ask for proof. Don't give them sentiment. They'll chew it. Give them receipts. "Receipts?" you hiss. It smirks, humorless. "Moments, evidence, actual things you did, not words you rehearsed." The old woman nods, grim. Love without ledger is fraud. Show them something that bleeds. The lead auditor clicks its pen. Statement, enumerate. You look around, pulse racing. What do you offer? The first thing that comes is ridiculous but true. "Soup," you say. "I loved soup. I shared it when I didn't have enough." The pen scratches. The auditor behind it nods, unimpressed. The second comes sharper. "Knox," you blurt. "I loved the silence between them." More scratching. Another nod. The third hurts. "I loved names I couldn't say out loud. I kept them safe until someone else could." The child's candlelight flares in agreement. The echo's smirk softens into something dangerous. Respect. The lead auditor raises its clipboard. "Receipts acceptable. Balance requires counterweight." "Counterweight?" you ask. It gestures to the collector still bound inside air. "Debt unpaid. Love weighed against hunger. Choose." The child cries out, "No." The echo clutches your sleeve. "They want you to exchange one for the other." The boy whispers, "Ledger always pits affection against appetite. It wants to see what you'll feed." The old woman thumps her cane. "Guard your name, guard your hearth, don't give them your marrow." The auditors stand waiting, pens poised. Air's sockets dim further. The collector inside the lattice stirs, teeth grinding like a hungry stomach. You realize the cruel trick. Love is proof, but also bait. If you hand it over, the collector feeds. If you withhold, the ledger marks you stingy. Either way, the audit hungers. You close your eyes. Think. Not soup, not Knox, not names. Something else. Something that can't be repossessed because it already paid itself. You open your mouth and speak the one thing you never thought you'd offer. The ward tilts forward. waiting to see if it's enough. Time, you say, before bravery can veto it. Not the easy kind, the ugly minutes. I sat through them, I stayed. The word is small, but it lands like furniture. The lead auditor tilts its clipboard. Pens begin their scratchy hymn. The others lean in, faces of your faces measuring the claim. Time has no scent to wave under their noses, no ribbon to show, no toy to rattle. It only has the dent your body made in a room that could have been empty and wasn't, because you refused to leave. Specify, the tidy one prompts. You swallow. Your throat feels like receipt paper. The hour I didn't sleep so the child could. The night I kept the window latched while the name copied my voice. The morning I boiled water that wasn't soup yet and told everyone it was almost. The echo's mouth twitches, half a smile, half a wince. The old woman's chin lifts a millimeter, which in her language is applause. The boy's grip tightens on the bone as letters align, grateful to finally spell something that doesn't run away. Air lowers its skull, sockets dim with that particular animal comprehension. Endurance counts. The lead auditor nods once. Receipts logged. Counterbalance required. Its pen points, inevitable, at the lattice around the collector. Payment? Not my time, you say, and your voice surprises you again by holding. Time isn't edible. It works when you keep it. It breaks when you spend it on hunger. A ripple passes through the auditors, a bureaucratic murmur. One version of you frowns like a calendar. Another licks the nib of their pen as if ink had taste. The collector grinds its vertical teeth, impatient, the frost creeping an inch along Air's ribs before stopping at the carved word here, as if the letters were a syllable it can't pronounce. The tidy one taps its board. Alternate tender? You look at the child, their candlelight, their knees hooked on the chair's rung, their pulse visible as a trembling halo around their shadow. You look at the old woman who has only ever paid in vertebrae. You look at the echo who would sell their reflection to buy you a minute you didn't ask for. You look at the boy who has been passing you change this whole time, trying not to count your mistakes out loud. Work, you hear yourself say, not penance. Work. The auditors exchange a glance that looks like a column widening. Define. You point at the chalked circles, at the cot you dragged into a geometry that keeps breathing. This ward is a house now. Audit that. Audit the chores. Audit the soup. Audit who sits with the names when they're loud. Let the ledger take satisfaction in what we do, not what we surrender. The old woman's mouth becomes a door you can almost forgive. The boy's eyes flash. The echo huffs a laugh like a stamp approving the wrong line because it's right secretly. The child nods solemnly, as if promoted to something they already were. Work offsets hunger only when supervised. Drones a shorter auditor with your posture from bad days. Compliance requires oversight. Fine, you say. Watch. You lift the bone, start the list, and then, because the only spell you trust is doing, you move. You set the pot on a burner that isn't a burner but decides to be because you describe flame until the tiles agree. You pour water from air, from breath, from the condensation of hope. It sizzles like punctuation meeting a sentence. The old woman grinds salt from the stubborn stone of her pocket. The boy slices carrots you don't remember carrying in with a shard of glass. He calls a knife only because intention matters. The child tears bread that tastes like a rumor that turned honest. The echo cleans trays with a rag that used to be your sleeve. They scowl at the streaks like streaks owe them money. The auditors follow, pens steady, recording measurements they invented because numbers calm them. They weigh the ladle. They time the simmer. They note the distribution. 4 bowls, 1 extra kept on the back of the stove the way people who've known war always keep 1 extra. Their clipboards glitter with arithmetic. Evidence accepted, the tidy one says at last, voice forced to be neutral. Sustenance logged. Next, you say, because audits travel in packs. Presence, says another, your face with patience carved into it like rivers. Quantify sitting. You sit, not performatively, not briefly. You sit beside air, beside the lattice, beside the collector's sulk. You put your palm on bone and keep it there until your fingers ache, until the frost under your skin thinks twice. You sit through the whistle in your ears that isn't a whistle, but your nerves retuning. You sit until the echo sits too, muttering about how stupid this is while matching your breathing. The child curls on the cot, and the old woman pulls the blanket over them without removing her glare from the corner where trouble breeds. The boy hums a nothing song that lines the ceiling like lint. Pens write, a column fills. Minutes, Hours, the metric of staying. Presence logged, an auditor concedes, irritated by the category because it resists invoices. Love persists, the lead one says. Counterweight? You look at the collector and realize the ledger is trying to make you spend the wrong currency again. No, you tell the room. Love doesn't counterweight hunger. It names the room so hunger can't. The flooring creaks, the kind of creak that means something old is thinking. Frost on the lattice hesitates. The child dreams. You hear them whisper a word that isn't yours and never will be. You keep it anyway, like a coat you hold for someone while they tie their shoes. The tidy auditor sighs, ticks a box. Findings, partial satisfaction. Ledger requires a final test. It taps the appeal stain, dull on the tile. You denied once. Denials draw interest. If you mean to keep your house-shaped ward, you must overpay. Overpay how? The Echo asks, suspicious because they came factory-installed that way. The lead auditor lifts a second clipboard. The paper darker, the lines tighter. Confession, it says simply. Your ribs try to walk away. The old woman's head turns, slow as a dial. The boy stops humming. Air sockets flare in a caution color you can't name. Confess what? Your mouth asks, on fire. That you kept a name that wasn't yours, the auditor says. Not just guarded, kept, because it made you feel like a bigger person. The room tilts. You see it then, unpleasantly clear, the night you first pressed the bone to your ear and heard a whisper you pretended was a draft. How you wore it inside your chest like jewelry you didn't earn. Not always, not often. Just enough to feel taller when you were small. The Echo looks at you the way you look at you when you stop lying. The child's candle eyes don't dim. They wait. The old woman doesn't rescue you, she never has. She holds the room open so you can rescue yourself. You nod. Not big, not dramatic, just enough to be true. Yes, you say. I kept one. I liked how it sounded in my mouth. You touch your sternum. I put it back, late. Pens scratch. Somewhere a page flips. The collector hisses, sensing meat, but the lattice holds and air does not move. Penalty, you ask, because you've learned to name it before it leaps. Service, the lead auditor says. 3 winters of riding when no one else will, and you never get credit for it. The ledger will write someone else's signature on those nights, and you will let it. Your first instinct is cheap righteousness. It sours in your mouth. Your second is a laugh. It dies because it isn't funny. Your third is the only one that fits. Yes, you say, write somebody else. I'll ride anyway. The auditors go still, pleased still, not predatory. It's the satisfaction of a sum that finally balances. The lead one lowers its pen. Audit satisfied. The word loosens the ward's shoulders. Lights stop complaining. The chalk circles glow like ringed planets that chose not to leave. Hair lowers its skull against your shoulder. Bone heavy, familiar. The lattice hums a lullaby that knows where sharpness sleeps. The collector sulks itself smaller, a winter in a jar. The appeal stain fades a shade. Not gone. Lighter. The old woman breathes out like a valve. Soup, she says, and it's a sacrament. You hand the first bowl to the child, the second to the Echo, the third to the boy, the fourth to the old woman. You keep the extra on the back of the stove because habits are scaffolding. The auditors step back toward their door, papers filed, faces returned to neutrality. The lead one pauses, looks at hair. Something like respect crosses your face on their face. Keep your receipts, it says, almost gentle. The ledger loves to forget what doesn't serve it. Noted, you answer. They're gone. The audit letters unwind and crawl back into wood. You sit with your bowl, steam fogging the part of you that used to be careful. The Echo clinks their spoon against yours like a truce. The child slurps and then tries to apologize for slurping, and you say, no, louder. The old woman pretends her soup is bad and eats it anyway. The boy lifts the bone and listens to nothing for a long, satisfied minute. From somewhere far, as if the night remembered humor, you hear sleigh bells. Not real, not Hallmark. A sound like metal learning to be merry in spite of itself. It fades before you can be embarrassed by it. You lean back. Air's lattice vibrates, low and calm. The ward breathes like a chest that chose to keep going. Then the messenger coughs politely. Of course it does. Small matter, it says. Your 3 winters begin at midnight. You grin with too many teeth. Wake me. Midnight doesn't arrive. It collects you. One blink you're in the cot, soup sitting warm in your stomach like a truce, and the next you're upright on Hare's ribs, ribbon snug, snow hissing beneath hooves that never touch the ground. The ward, the hearth, the tree, they're folded away, shut like drawers. Above, a sky of ledger paper stretches endless, lines faint blue, stars nothing but tiny stamped approvals. The echo is beside you naturally, because it refuses to miss a disaster. They ride double, shoulders pressed into yours, muttering curses you recognize as prayers that hate themselves. The shadow child sits behind both of you, candlelight burning steady, their small weight the anchor you never thought you'd trust. The boy jogs alongside with impossible stamina, bone tucked under his arm. The old woman? She doesn't travel this way. She'll be waiting, as she always is, at the point where return pretends it can happen. Air gallops without galloping. The air is cold but not biting. Cold like an office where the heat is rationed. Cold that encourages neat posture. Far ahead glows the first winter. You know it because the snow changes texture. Finer, almost powdered ink. You breathe it and cough up fragments of years you don't remember volunteering for. The boy points. First winter's thin, easy to ride, hard to leave. And then you see them. Rows of people sitting cross-legged in the drifts, perfectly still, staring at nothing. Each has a nameplate staked in front of them, carved into icicles. Some plates glow faintly, others are dull, forgotten by whoever was supposed to keep the receipts. The seated figures don't shiver, they don't blink. They just endure. The echo hisses. These are my kind, riders who didn't argue enough. You feel bile rise. Or who argued too late. Air slows, hooves silent, even as the rows tighten. The shadow child leans close, whisper doubled. Don't look them in the eye. They'll ask you to sit with them. Forever you don't, but you hear them anyway. Every single one mutters the same line over and over in voices like your own throat on bad nights. Just one rest, just a pause. Balance later. You want to pause. You want to rest. Their voices knit together like a lullaby made of resignation. Your knees bend against your will. Air jerks its ribs, jolting you upright again. The ribbon burns your wrist, reminder that sleep here isn't sleep. It's receipt. The boy shouts over the muttering, "Declare something, fast." "What?" "Anything true enough to pin you." You blurt the first thing that claws its way out. "I hate order." The muttering falters. A few heads turn. Some nameplates dim further, insulted. Others flicker brighter as if envy is a kind of light. The echo snorts. Childish but effective. The shadow child presses their hand to your back. More. Loud. You scream it this time. "I hate order." It echoes across the rows. For the first time, some of the seated rise to their knees, trembling as if the words jarred them loose. Their nameplates crack, sharp little sounds in the powdered ink. The first winter trembles. A fissure opens across the snow, like a receipt tearing in half. Air leaps it clean, and suddenly the muttering is behind you. The echo exhales, rattled. One down. 2 to go. The boy doesn't slow. Second winter's deeper. It asks questions. The glow ahead shifts, colder, blue-white like fluorescent tubes. Snow thickens, piling higher than fences. You hear it before you see it. Voices, hundreds, all asking questions at once. Not screams, not whispers, just interrogation, polite and relentless. Why didn't you? Why did you? Who told you you could? Who told you you couldn't? What about the time? The questions shove into your ears, crawl under your tongue, pin your ribs open like exhibits. You clutch Air's neck, sockets flaring brighter as the questions multiply. The shadow child warns, answer none, answer one, and you owe them all. The echo leans forward, shouting against the noise. "Stall! Do what you're good at." So you stall. "Who's asking?" You shout. For the first time, the questions pause. Just a heartbeat. Then they all shift in unison to the same demand. Answer. The boy tosses you the bone. You catch it, hot in your hand. Letters crawl instantly. Your names jumbled together like a deck shuffled by hands you don't trust. You grip it tighter and shout, "Questions don't audit love." The voices stutter. The snow itself shakes. The echo laughs wildly. "That's not even grammar." It worked, didn't it? The fissures come again, wider this time. Air leaps, ribbons singing. Behind you, the questions collapse into static, then vanish. Silence returns, brief, awful. You know what's next. The boy jogs closer, face pale. Third winter, he warns. It doesn't speak. It doesn't sit, it rides you. And there it is, black snow heavy as ash, falling in drifts that smell like burnt paper. Figures on bone horses ride in circles, faces blank, names carved directly into their foreheads. Every hoofbeat sounds like your pulse. Every face looks like yours. The shadow child whispers, softer now. If you let it mount, you'll never climb down. The echo grips your sleeve. Balance or be. Air slows, sockets dimming, waiting for you to decide. Because the third winter doesn't attack, it waits. It knows riders choose their own prisons. The third winter waits like a stage that hates actors. Riders circle on bone mounts that look like Air's stern brothers, each with a face carved into the brow, not names but verdicts. Loyal, efficient, unobtrusive. Words that sound like compliments until they bite. Their hooves rhythm your pulse back to you, louder, harder, until your heartbeat feels counterfeit, like a drum played by a stranger wearing your chest. Don't take the bridle. The boy pants, keeping pace, breath smoking. If you touch theirs, they'll touch yours. You clutch Air's ridge anyway because fear has sweaty hands. The echo leans into you, glare fixed ahead. They're recruitment posters, it says. Ignore the typography. The shadow child tightens their grip around your waist, candlelight flickering steady. Name yourselves before they do, they whisper. Say what you ride for. Your mouth opens and chooses the most ridiculous truth available. Soup, you shout into the ash cold. Beds made warm, knocks not answered. Names held shut until it's safe to open them. Your voice cracks, then hardens. Hearth. A few of the verdict-faced riders twitch as if their horses hit a seam in the snow. Loyal blinks. Efficient hesitates. Unobtrusive flares offended. Air tosses its skull and steps sideways, refusing the circle. The ribbon hums like wire strung across a canyon. Don't fall into their orbit. One of the third winter riders peels off and blocks your path. Its horse's brow bears a single sharp word, compliance. The rider's face is a tidied version of you, smoothed of doubt. Dismount, it says pleasantly. We'll ride for you. You'll like the quiet. Before you can spit, the echo moves, forward, angry, impatient. Offer declined, it says with your teeth. We prefer our noise. Compliance smiles without heat. Noise breeds error. Error breeds invention, the echo snaps. And invention got us out of your chair. Air lowers its skull, sockets brightening. The rider of compliance extends a hand toward your reins that aren't reins. The air between fingers and bone ripples, as if a rule is about to land. The boy hisses, back! But there's nowhere to back to. The circle tightens. Verdict horses closing like a vice that learned choreography. The shadow child presses their mouth to your shoulder and breathes the splinter word into your coat, the one that shook ribbons and burned knots. It trembles down your sleeve and into your palm. You feel your grip become a lock. Air feels it too, bones stiffening, spine aligning, and the horse lifts its front hooves delicately and sets them down outside the circle as though remembering it is not enrolled. Compliance's hand meets empty air and closes on nothing. Perfection cracks something small behind its carved brow. Efficient stares, bewildered, like a clock that forgot noon. Loyal whinnies, an ugly, lonely sound that makes your ribs prickle. They can't follow if we don't turn, the boy says as if explaining a joke to a map. Ride straight, third winter, only circles. You're sure? You ask, because stalling is a reflex and doubt is oxygen. No, he admits and grins like a dare. But pretending confidence is free. Then forward, you tell Air, and the bone horse obeys with a calm so stubborn it looks like grace. You try straight. The circle bends. Third winter slides itself under your hooves like a treadmill run by accountants. The riders keep pace easily. Compliance drifts on your left, efficient on your right, loyal just behind. Unobtrusive everywhere, by definition. They tell you simple, beautiful lies in your own voice. You've done enough. It's someone else's turn. Order can be kind. Surrender is a type of generosity. For a step you agree. For 2 steps, you nearly unclench your grip. On the third, Air stumbles. The shadow child tightens their hold. The echo speaks through its teeth. Say the price. What? You rasp. For each lie, it says. Say what it costs out loud. Politeness hates arithmetic when it isn't in charge. You stare at Compliance's hand. Surrender costs the child, you say, and the word child heats your tongue like a coin on a stove. Efficient smirks. You turn to it. Order costs the old woman's spine. Loyal flinches behind you. You shout over your shoulder. Enough costs never enough. Unobtrusive breathes against your neck. Absent as breath, and you whisper. Quiet costs names. The riders recoil. Their horses stumble. The carved words above their brows flicker, letters shaking like teeth in numb gums. Air surges, hooves eating black snow that tastes like pencil dust. Straight starts to mean something again. Again, the boy urges, half running, half floating on stubbornness. Price them until they're broke. You get mean. Compliance costs a house that forgets jokes. The rider's tidy smile wavers. Efficient costs a soup that never overfills a bowl. Its horse snorts steam that smells like contempt. Loyal costs loving the wrong thing on schedule. Loyal's brow word dims. Unobtrusive costs a knock no one hears. The air around that rider pops like a sucked lollipop leaving vacuum. The circle phrase. Third winter's riders wobble, unsure whom to orbit. Air leaps a seam that opens underfoot, a receipt tearing, and for a breath you are clear. Then a new horse steps into your path, quieter than the rest, taller, brow uncarved. Its rider is not you for once. Not tidy, not monstrous, just tired. Their coat hangs like it remembers storms. The horse's eyes are ash grey and kind in a way you don't trust. It doesn't speak. It bows its head to air. Your horse bows back. The shadow child's fingers dig into your ribs. Do not dismount. What is it? The echo whispers, shaken. The boy's face goes still, thoughtful as a bruise. Precedent, he says. The rider who stayed mounted when everyone else accepted chairs. Friend? You ask, desperate. Temptation, he says. Different flavor. The tired rider raises a hand. Their palm is empty and open, scarred by rains you can't see. In the lines you read a map of roads you'd like to ride. Ones that end in houses with honest roofs. Ones with doors that open inward. Ones where soup tastes like forgiveness without paperwork. Hare breathes that dream in and stamps once, caught by the smell of home where it isn't. The tired rider's eyes meet yours. They carry no judgment, only invitation. It's cruelty by mercy. Rest without receipt, grace without audit, hearth without knots. Your bones lurch toward it like sleep into noon. Price, the echo warns, voice shaking now. Say the price. You swallow hope like hot tea. Peace that doesn't cost is counterfeit, you say. The tired rider's gaze doesn't harden. It saddens. Their horse inclines its head, acknowledging the insult and the accuracy. Air, you whisper, stroking the carved word. Home is the work we do, not a door we buy. The bone horse lifts its skull. The ribbon tightens, not choking, anchoring, and air steps forward. The tired rider and their ash-eyed mount move aside with solemnity that hurts more than spite. The third winter thins. Riders dissolve into manuscript flurries. Carved verdicts crumble into readable letters and blow away like the minutes you survived. The black snow lightens to grey, then to ordinary cold. You smell the ward again, bleach wearing pine like cheap perfume. The paper sky tears into stars that might be real. End of winter, the boy breathes, exhausted and pleased. For now, for tonight, the shadow child corrects, because someone must. The echo leans against you like a wall you aren't, sharing weight you can finally carry. You didn't let it mount, they murmur, proud of us, irritated with us. Both. Bill me later, you say, and your laugh scares a dark corner back into shape. The horizon lifts. Doors bloom where the sky used to be. You recognize none and all, the house, the ward, the tree, 100 variations of each. Holidays that failed with dignity, winters that learned jokes. The messenger's blur glides along the edge of sight, patient as an invoice. Which? The boy asks, eyes on you. The old woman's voice arrives across the ledger wind, steady as a cane on tile. Balance or be. You look at your hands on air's bone, at the ribbon tied 3 ways, at the shadow child's small certainty, at the echo's tired courage, at the boy's open ledger of faith, at the snow that still wants to be paper when no one is looking. Home, you say, not as destination, but as verb. Air chooses the door that isn't a door until you call it, and gallops through. Behind you, somewhere far back in third winter, compliance watches you go, and for the first time, its carved word looks like it might be ready to crack. The door Air chooses isn't wood or bone or frost. It's absence outlined faintly by your word, home. You feel it yield under hooves, not like an entry, but like a throat swallowing. The air flips. The ribbon snaps taut. You, the echo, the shadow child, and the boy tumble through together, as if the ledger decided bundles are harder to misplace. On the other side, you stand in a room that almost fools you. Hearth fire glow, soup simmering, bed tucked neat. Toys scattered the way children scatter them when they know someone else will trip and laugh. It smells right. Too right. Air steps cautiously, sockets dimmed, and the ribbon hums low. Warning. The echo squints. Trap. Gift. The boy counters, frowning. Ledger sometimes bribes after audits. Wants you to settle. The shadow child doesn't sit or smile. Their candlelight eyes sweep corners until they stop at the window. Not outside, they whisper. Only painting. You walk closer. The window shows snow falling gentle, like storybooks lie about. You reach to unlatch it, and your hand meets a surface hard and glossy. Canvas. Paint smears under your touch, thick as oil, revealing the black ink underneath. No world beyond, only ledger pages stacked like bricks. Called it, the echo mutters. The soup bubbles louder, impatient. Its smell thickens, sweet to the point of nausea. You lift the lid, and the pot isn't stew, it's bones. Small ones, polished, floating in broth the color of receipts gone damp. They clink against the ladle, cheerful like toys imitating laughter. Air rears slightly, sockets blazing. The ribbon around its neck trembles, ready to cut or connect. The boy grips his bone and letters blaze across it in frantic warning. Domestic trap claim requires abandonment. Abandonment of what? You whisper. The answer comes from the walls, polite and cruel. Choose what you leave. Child, echo, horse, boy, old woman, name. The hearth crackles louder. The bed creaks empty. A voice, yours, tidied, says from nowhere, home is not for all. Payment requires vacancy. The old woman isn't here, but her words find you anyway. Balance or B, you freeze. This is the cost. The ledger will let you stay in a house-shaped page, but only if you leave someone outside it. The echo bares their teeth. Well, don't look at me. But their eyes betray the fear that you might. The boy shakes his head. This is false home. Ledger wants proof you'll starve yourself for the comfort of wallpaper. The shadow child steps forward. Candlelight flickers stronger. I'll go, they whisper. Air will carry me anyway. Inheritances aren't kept in kitchens. No, you snap. The thought of them vanishing into the margins cracks something behind your ribs. No leaving. The soup pot boils harder, bone broth frothing. A voice sings from it, soft and sticky. Choose, or we choose. The ribbon tightens on all your wrists, cutting until your hands shake. Air's sockets flare white. It stamps once, and the room's walls ripple like parchment dunked in water. The echo leans close. You know what they want, don't you? Yeah, you breathe. They want us to believe love needs subtraction. So we subtract nothing. The boy's eyes widen. That means breaking the house. Good, you say. It's not real. You lift the bone like a hammer. Letters crawl across it, frantic, then settle into one word you've never used this way before. Stay. You slam it against the window canvas. Ink splatters. The ledger pages beyond ripple, groaning like a courthouse caught in a storm. The hearth fire shrieks. The bed twists, the pot tips and spills bones across the floor. The house shakes apart, wallpaper shredding into ribbons. The polite voice loses its manners. Unacceptable. The shadow child takes your hand, small but burning. The echo clutches your other, muttering curses like psalms. The boy plants his feet and drives the bone into the tile again. Air rears, ribs cracking wider, sockets burning brighter than lamps. The house collapses outward. Beyond it, not void, not ledger paper, snow. Real snow, unpainted, cold on your skin, open under stars that are not stamps. The hearth vanishes, the bed fades, the soup pot shatters into harmless shards. The bones scatter, lifeless. You stand in the clearing again. The bone tree looms at the far edge, its toys rattling faintly. The ward is visible in the distance, its windows lit. Your house crouches beside it, smoke curling from the chimney like nothing bad ever happened. 3 doors, 3 homes, none safe, all true. The echo exhales. We're out. Not yet, the boy warns. Ledger will appeal again. The shadow child nods, but not tonight. The ribbon loosens, for the first time not binding, but resting. Air lowers its skull and breathes into your chest, as if stamping something inside you that paper can't. You look at the house, the ward, the tree, then up at the sky. Actual stars this time, not tidy ink. For a moment, the air is quiet. Not ledger quiet, not collector quiet. Real quiet, the kind that means you survived another night. The old woman's voice drifts across the snow, worn and steady. Sleep while you can. Tomorrow knocks again. You almost laugh. Almost. Instead, you lean against air, holding echo, child, and boy together in the knot your hands refuse to untie. Above, the stars blink, messy, unscheduled, yours. Dawn isn't golden. It's a pale receipt someone forgot to file. The clearing wears last night like a bruise. Your breath fogs the air with the same stubborn persistence as rumor. Air stands where you left it. Ribs steady, sockets embered down to the color of held-in laughter. The child is asleep against your side, head tucked under your arm like a secret that agreed to stay. The echo sprawls nearby, coat over their face, pretending to be decorative. The boy is awake already, of course he is, bone across his knees, reading the letters the way people read weather, expectant and resigned. The old woman appears from the direction of the house with the unspectacular magic of routine. She sets a kettle where a fire happens, because she says so, then turns her face toward you without bothering with hello. Last day, she says, as if she ordered it from a catalogue. Ledger likes a finale. It believes in pageantry. Today it will try to tidy what you smudged. You almost say sorry. You don't. What does it bring? Tradition, she says flatly. Parades, choirs with teeth, gifts labeled for your own good. Air snorts, offended on your behalf. The child stirs, candlelight flickering behind their eyes, then sits up with the solemnity of someone who dreamt responsibly. We don't accept gifts, they say. We accept gifts we choose, the echo corrects, pushing the coat off their face and squinting at the sky like it owes them change. Refuse the bow, keep the box. The boy holds up the bone. Letters crawl into a neat row that looks suspiciously like an agenda. Knock, procession, benediction, tally. He grimaces. Procession means everyone shows up, invited or not. Everyone, you ask, while your stomach votes no. He nods. Collectors, clerks, auditors, even the chair if it finds legs. He taps the second word. Benediction is the worst. That's where they say lovely things with wires inside them. You look toward the bone tree. Its branches are quiet, but not trusting. Farther left, the ward glows with a tired promise. The house's chimney scribbles a polite line of smoke, like a child who has learned to color inside. 3 homes, 1 morning, a theme you didn't order. The first knock arrives without a door. It lands in the air itself, 4 paws 2, as if the day wants you to know who's still hungry. Air's ribbon thrums against your wrist but doesn't tighten. The old woman lifts her cane. Not for us, she says, and the knock astonishingly goes past, looking for a weaker frame. The child grins. Small victories are the only kind anyone keeps. Then you hear it. Music, not the pleasant kind. A march, exact and festive, the sonic equivalent of polished shoes. It enters the clearing from the far tree line, led by the messenger wearing blur like cologne. Behind it, a row of clerks pushing carts stacked with ledgers tied in red ribbon. The auditors in their tidy faces. 3 collectors in formal harness, vertical mouths stitched shut with string that will definitely not hold. In the middle, borne on a litter made of ribs lacquered to a shine, comes the chair. It has found legs. They are yours. Not both, not now, not exactly, but the shape is correct. From the turned-in knee to the scar on the shin. The chair walks on your borrowed gait, high-backed, upholstered in absence, quills glinting at the arms. The sight makes your teeth ache. The procession stops at the edge of your circles like a tide negotiating shore. Seasonal conclave, the messenger announces pleasantly. Ledger brings gifts. Return to sender, the echo replies without standing, like rudeness is a prayer. The chair doesn't speak. Chairs don't have to. A clerk unfurls a scroll, whereas the rider has misfiled suffering into a domestic schema, whereas the air has been misapplied to containment, whereas the echo continues to undermine efficiency. Flattered, the echo says. The ledger, acting in generous spirit, offers reconciliation under the customary truce of snow. The old woman clicks her tongue. Truce of snow means they try to look kind while measuring your throat. The The child leans into your hip. We refuse politely or rudely? You look at the boy, who shrugs as if to say both tastes are available. The messenger gestures, and Clark scuttle to arrange a table. It's not a table, it's a scale dressed for dinner. On one platter, bundles in bright paper, bows tied with spines shaved thin. On the other, nothing yet. The chair sits itself at the head, as if it invented holidays. Gifts, the messenger says, hands folded, for each of you. First gift, to the child. A toy carved in some immaculate workshop, air but smaller, made of something soft that remembers bone without confessing it. The tag reads, Air, safe version. The child looks at it the way wild animals look at cages shaped like trees. Second gift, to the Echo, a mirror, not glass, ledger, a reflective page that shows them tidier, quicker, without your inconvenient softness. The tag, efficient self. Third gift, to the boy, a pen whose nib is a needle. The tag, write without bleeding. Fourth gift, to the old woman, a cane carved of policy instead of wood. It promises to move crowds without effort. The tag, authority without cost. Fifth gift, to you, a key, heavy as confession, stamped with a house, a ward, a tree. The tag, home without decision. Air receives nothing. The bone horse pins the chair with a gaze that would embarrass a cathedral. Choose, the messenger says gently. Under truce, nothing bites. The Echo snorts. Oh, it bites later. You pick up the key. It fits your palm with the intimacy of a bad idea. You imagine turning it and never having to say home as a verb again. You imagine doors obeying without arguments, beds that forgive you in advance, soup that never empties. You imagine becoming a saint of convenience, candles burning in your honor in a chapel that meets its quotas. The thought hurts like sitting too long on a bruise. The old woman lifts the policy cane, tests its balance, and sets it down as if it trying to push her back. No, she tells it, power makes my knuckles itch. The boy turns the needle pen in his fingers until it winks temptingly. I like bleeding, he says, surprised to discover it's true. The Echo raises the mirror. Their tidier reflection preens. The real Echo bares their teeth, then kisses the glass, leaving a grease-lipped smile the mirror can't quite erase. I prefer my errors loud. The child holds the soft air to their cheek. Candlelight brightens. Too quiet, they decide, and set it on the scale platter with the rest. All eyes turn to you, because fate enjoys delegating to the least rested. The key has warmed to your skin like a lie, auditioning for truth. Air bumps your shoulder with its skull. The ribbon hums a question only you can hear. The chair shifts. The borrowed legs cross at the ankle, exactly the way yours do when you're pretending to be calm. It would be an honor to hate it if it didn't feel like hating your own cowardice. Price, the Echo whispers. Say it before it hides. You look at the key and say, this costs the child's candle, the boy's ink, the old woman's spine, the Echo's noise, Air's job. You set the key down gently, like placing a bowl over a spider and sliding paper underneath. The platter dips. The bow glows mean and festive. No, the messenger bows an inch. Declined gifts return as taxes. Its voice is apology arranged into threat. Then the benediction. Auditors step forward, clipboards at heart level. In unison, your faces say kind things that bruise. You did your best. It's acceptable to stop. No shame in rest. Holidays are for forgetting. Grief is heavy, you're small. Shut up, the old woman says, and somehow it is a benediction that does not lie. The boy laughs. The child grins. The Echo says something unprintable. You say nothing because silence is your offering, a space where other voices can be loud. The chair raises a quill. Tally. Clerks rattle beads along a bachi like rain rehearsing. A collector tugs subtly at its stitches. The numbers arrive, stately, cruel. Debt remains. Receipts insufficient. Further rides required. Air plants its hooves. The ribbon tightens, not choking, anchoring. You meet the chair's absent gaze. I have 3 winters. The words taste less like doom than they used to. They taste like a schedule you'll keep. The chair inclines smug gratitude in upholstery form. Commence. Not yet, the old woman says, and taps the scale with her cane. You gave gifts. We give one. She looks at you, at the child, at the Echo, and the boy, and the horse. Sing, she orders. You laugh, horrified. I don't sing badly, she clarifies. Ledger hates music it can't file. The boy strikes the bone with his knuckles. It answers like a bell that learned to gossip. The child hums crooked and brave. The echo harmonizes poorly out of spite. You open your mouth and let sound fall out the way snow does when nobody's watching. Air joins, sockets flickering like old radios. The chair shifts, irritated. Auditors falter, pens missing lines. Clerks miscount a bead. A collector's stitch loosens. Its vertical mouth whispers, involuntarily, a lullaby it didn't know it knew. The messenger's blur thins enough to show a face you could forgive. Music, ugly, earnest, unpaid for, fills the clearing and leaks into the ward and up the bone tree until toys rattle politely in time. For a blessed minute the ledger can't hear its own numbers. The old woman grins like someone told a good joke at a funeral. Procession's over, she says. Benediction refused, tally noted. We keep the day. The chair stands, annoyed. It turns on your legs and marches away, procession unspooling behind it. The messenger pauses at the edge of your circles. Midnight, it says, not unkind. Bring a coat. Bring an appetite, you answer, and it nods like it almost understands. When they're gone, the clearing exhales. The kettle simmers the sound of a small victory. The child climbs onto Air's back without asking. The horse shifts to allow it, indulgent. The echo drops onto the snow and declares themselves dead until tea exists. The boy lies back and watches clouds behave. The old woman pours cups and doesn't comment when your hand shakes. Last day, the old woman said, but endings are ledger words. Tonight is ride, today is ours. You sip, burn your tongue and call it sweet anyway. Air bumps your shoulder again. You ready? Soon, you tell the horse. We'll ride, but first, let the soup lie about being enough. For once the day agrees. The soup lies gently, steam curling like a ribbon that remembers knots. You sip again, tongue scalded, throat warmed in spite of ledger frost still hiding at the edges of your ribs. Air stands near, sockets soft, skull lowered as if listening to the kettle instead of the distant tally drums. Temporary reprieve, the boy murmurs, tracing letters on the bone with his fingertip. They glow briefly, fade, glow again, like a lantern uncertain whether to burn. Ledger gave us a day. That means tonight it wants the ride louder. The echo groans from where they've collapsed in the snow, coat over their eyes. Of course, Ledger hates being outsung. The child leans against your leg, toyless hands fidgeting, candle eyes dimmer in daylight but steady. Then we sing again, they whisper. The old woman snorts, pouring herself another cup of thin tea. You'll sing. Ledger will knock, and the horse will carry. She doesn't glance at Hare, she doesn't need to. She knows where faith is nailed. You watch the sky. It's messier today. Not tidy ink, not ledger lines. Clouds tumble with no accounting, no receipt. Stars hide behind them like children behind curtains plotting. For a brief moment, you allow the impossible. Maybe not everything is written. The boy interrupts your fragile heresy. We should plan. Planning is how they win, the echo grumbles. Improvising is how you almost sat down forever, the boy counters. You sigh. They're both right, which is exactly the problem. Fine, you say. Plan to improvise. The old woman chuckles dryly. At least he's learning. You gather closer, circle around the kettle's hiss. The boy spreads the bone across his lap like a ledger of war. Letters twitch into headings. Knocks, rides, witnesses, cost. He points. Knocks will come. They always come first. The rhythm tells us which mouth is at the door. 4-2 is collector, 3-3 is messenger. One endless beat is chair. The child shivers at that last one. We don't open for chairs. The echo taps the rides column. Ledger expects 3. We've done 1. They'll escalate. They'll make the next a holiday parade again, except with sharper teeth. You nod grimly. And witnesses? The boy shrugs. Depends who shows. Sometimes your own past sits at the table. Sometimes it's your absence. You don't ask about cost. You already know. The old woman clears her throat. Hear me, all of you. Ledger only counts what it can name. Keep something unnamed. A scrap, a laugh, a dream you don't read out loud. Guard it. The echo mutters, guarded secrets burn. They burn bright, she snaps. And Ledger can't tally ash. Silence holds the circle for a while. The kettle sighs, The snow shifts. The tree rattles faintly like bones testing memory. Then the knock comes. Not on a door, on the air above your heads. Gentle, insistent. 3-3, messenger. The blur pours into shape at the edge of the clearing. It bows as if last night's defiance was a party favor everyone enjoyed. Evening approaches, it says politely. Commencement requires preparation. Politeness hides a knife, the echo grumbles. Knives cut both ways, the messenger replies, and its blur ripples faintly. Annoyed? Amused? It's impossible to tell. It gestures toward the bone tree. Tonight's ride begins there. Contracts bloom. Toys are restless. Ledger intends spectacle. Air stamps once. Sockets flashing. The child grips your sleeve. We don't want spectacle. No one does, you assure them. Except Ledger. The boy rises, bone clutched. Then we'll answer with noise again, ugly, loud, unpaid. The old woman smiles faintly. The kind of smile that has never been mistaken for softness. Yes. Ledger will choke on it. The messenger bows again. Midnight, it says, voice thinner than before, as though even politeness tires. Then it dissolves, leaving only frost that refuses to melt. You exhale. So that's it. We ride the tree tonight. The echo stretches, bones cracking like sarcastic applause. Fine. But I'm bringing soup in my pocket. If Ledger eats me, it'll choke. The child laughs, small, fierce. The boy shakes his head, but even he smiles. The old woman finishes her tea, sets the cup down with a finality you recognize as yes. You lean against air, stroke the carved word on its neck. Home, you whisper, not as destination but as reminder. The ribbon hums in your wrist. Above, clouds shred apart, revealing a scatter of stars too messy to file. For a moment, Ledger doesn't own the sky. And you decide. Tonight, when the toys rattle and the contracts bloom, you won't just ride. You'll sing badly until even the tree forgets what it was planted for. Midnight walks in on its own feet. The clearing ices over with ceremony. The sky hangs low and nosy. You ride air toward the bone tree with the echo at your side. The child behind you. The boy trotting close. The old woman steadying the air with her cane like a metronome that refuses to rush. Toys rattle from the branches. Dolls of vertebrae, whistles, jawbone boats, each humming a clause. Ribbons rise and curl, shy snakes remembering choreography. Contracts bloom as frost script over every twig. The messenger appears at the far edge, blur courteous, voice even. Begin. You don't wait for blessing. You pick the ugliest note your throat can find and sling it into the cold. A cracked hum that would embarrass a kettle. The echo joins off-key on purpose, harmonizing the way a stubborn door harmonizes with a shoulder. The child hums a third, small but bright, wobbling like candlelight on ribbed glass. The boy raps the bone against the trunk, knock, 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 writing rhythm into bark. Air's sockets flicker a patient bass. The old woman doesn't sing. She listens the way snow listens to footsteps and decides whether to keep them. Contracts twitch, offended by unfiled sound. One ribbon, pale as a jaw, unfurls and angles toward you, its claws inked in tidy winter. You ride, we keep, you forget. You shake your head and sing louder. Another ribbon descends with gentler serif. You rest, we carry. You sign later. The echo spits. Predatory lullabies. The messenger lifts its porcelain hand. Truce language, it corrects. But even politeness sounds winded. You inhale cold that tastes like cancelled appointments. We don't accept forgetfulness, you tell the tree. We don't accept borrowed backs, we ride and remember. Your voice cracks again, good. Imperfection proofs the page. The old woman's cane ticks approval against ice. The boy, grinning, changes the beat to an ugly, generous pattern no claws can scan. Air steps with it, hooves scuffing snow into punctuation. Ribbons hesitate, then get clever. They braid themselves into a doorway of gleaming script, a contract you could walk through and be done. Home guaranteed. A warm draft sighs from it. Bread, bed, quiet that doesn't ask questions. The child reaches, instinctive, then stops, candle eyes flaring. Price? The echo answers for you. Names. The doorway's warmth dims, chastised. On its lintel a smaller line inks itself, the fine print that always shows late. Air relinquished. You laugh, mean and delighted. You thought we wouldn't read. The old woman snorts so loudly the doorway blushes. The boy taps the bone twice. The script flickers. He writes a counter clause in sound. Bad meter, great intent. Air butts your boot. You lean down and whisper into bone, home is a verb. The ribbon door buckles. Letters slush away like thawed gutter snow. The chair arrives without procession, gliding on legs that were yours yesterday and are still yours if you let them be. It sits beneath the lowest branch and lets the branch sit on it back. Enough improvisation, it says, upholstery calm. Ledger has made concessions. Take the truce. 3 winters will pass easier if everybody behaves. Its quills shine like well-groomed threats. The collector inside your distant ward stirs, feeling the speech through the lattice like a thunder headache. What does behaves cost, you ask, now fluent in prices. The chair tilts. Only the part that finds trouble charming. The echo bows theatrically. Tragically, that's our favorite organ. The child giggles, then clamps a hand over their mouth, contrite and unrepentant. The old woman points her cane at the chair's borrowed knees. Give those back, she says. The chair doesn't. Of course it doesn't. Contracts descend faster, eager to win by paperwork flood. Ride without fear. Rest without blame. Hearth without mess. Each tag carries a hidden subclause you can taste before you see. No singing, no echo, no air. You swap notes with the echo, clashing on purpose, grinding like gears that refuse to marry. The child hums a counter melody that trembles and then steadies. The bravery of a hand that reaches anyway. The boy's bone keeps the beat until the beat becomes a place to stand. Then the tree itself speaks. Not with words. Trees never humiliate themselves that way, but with a groan that reorganizes your spine. Branches lower like stern elders. Toys knock together. Chat, chat, chat. The gossip of winters who've seen worse and doubt it. Ribbons rise and weave into a single rope that wants your wrist. It carries a clause older than all the neat ones. We name you Keeper. Your breath knots. Keeper is not saint. Keeper is not hero. Keeper is mopper, watcher, last light banker. The one who stays late and leaves first. The person who knows where the bodies' names are stored. It's a job title with dirt under the nails. It fits. You hate how it fits. The echo feels you sag and shoves your shoulder. If we say yes, we never stop. If we say no, we never forgive ourselves. The old woman doesn't rescue you. She only offers the luxury of accuracy. That is what choosing feels like. The messenger inclines. Acceptance reduces audit. The chair purrs faintly. Air waits. Perfectly still. The ribbons hum nested inside your pulse like a second hand. The child puts their palm over yours, small heat, a vote. The boy lifts the bone, eyes steady. You already keep, he says. Saying it won't make it more true. It will make it less lonely. You take the rope. Here it stings, of course it stings. The clause burns itself into your skin in letters only you can see and everybody else can feel. Keeper inks across the place your breath knows the route home. Toys hush. The tree stops pretending it wanted you to refuse. At once the contracts change tactics. They soften. They offer gifts again, different bows. Help, assistance, authorized shortcuts. The fine print under each is worse than teeth. Quiet air, tidy echo, mute child. You look at the messenger. Truce? It bows. Benedictions? You look at the chair. It smiles absence. You look at the old woman. She barks. Sing badly. So you do. You sing the inventory of a house that isn't. The menu of a soup you can't afford. The names you hold like lit glass. The mistakes you overwater. The jokes that keep the rafters from folding. You drag the notes through gravel. The echo throws harmony down the stairs. The child threads their small, fearless tone through the mess like a stitch. The boy drums the bone until the bone is a bell that tells the ledgers what time the human hour is. Air adds a low, contented radio hum. The tree, ashamed of how good it feels, pretends not to sway. The chair stands, irritated enough to creak. Tally, it commands, and clerks boil from the dark like careful ants. Abachi chatter. Quills chew paper. Numbers rise, haloed with smug. The messenger lifts a hand. Findings. Debt remains. Winter's owed. Household irregular. The old woman lifts her chin. Findings addendum, ward warmed, names kept, children laughing. File under uncooperative compliance. The chair inclines that intolerable upholstery. Accepted. It points a quill at you. 3 winters commence on the next bell. You swallow steady. We know. It gestures at hair. Mount. You are already mounted. Before the procession can turn, the child tugs your coat. Wait. They slide off Ayre's back, step to the trunk, and press their candlelight eyes to the bark. A tiny glow seeps inside, then travels, slow, stubborn, branch to branch, toy to toy, ribbon to ribbon, like warmth teaching circulation. Dolls unclench, whistles stop bracing for command. Jawboats loosen their sails and remember rivers. The tree sighs the way hospitals do when visiting hours start. Receipt? The messenger asks, quiet, almost gentle. The boy writes with the bone on the ice, house song filed. The words frost, then sink, then hold. The chair reads them and finds no claws to eat them with. For once, paperwork protects you. Go, the old woman orders, because affection here wears verbs. Ride, come back with the part you can carry. The echo swings up behind you, lighter than dread, heavier than denial. The boy slaps Ayre's neck twice. Good luck. Bad timing. The child hugs the tree and then climbs after, small arms cinching your ribs like a promise that bites sweet. You look at the chair, the messenger, the clerks, the quieted contracts, the tree, the ward's distant windows, the unsaintly house, the old woman furious with pride. Audit me tomorrow, you tell them. Tonight I have soup to deliver. Ayre launches. Snow opens its grammar. The first winter waits with new questions. The second has sharpened its blue pencils. The third circles, sulking, drafting recruitment posters with better fonts. You go anyway, keeper by accident and on purpose, singing badly because Ledger can't count a tune that refuses tempo. Behind you the tree hums back, and for once the night hums with it, and the knock that comes is late, and softer, and hears you pass, and lets you through.